3, 2, 1, mark. Okay.
Ooh,
Look at that. I
almost.
work out one day and all of a sudden my palms don't hurt from clapping anymore.
Well done.
All right.
You
We're going now.
Are you okay?
Am I okay?
Are you okay?
I'm seeing
No.
a beautiful vision of the 1990s. I'm sorry you're not okay. What's going on?
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying that as a rhetorical gesture.
I see.
Yes.
I was worried.
Hmm.
As I have to be because you're my best pal.
No,
Oh.
the big issue right now is that I've cleaned up enough of my office that I can lean my chair back, but it leans
That's
back
the worst
farther.
thing you've ever invented. Yeah, because like Roz and I have the same chair, so he's on the video, but I am. So let me demonstrate something for you. Oh boy!
I'm willing to get competitive about this or indeed anything. Let's fucking go.
Hold on. We gotta.
Oh, fuck.
Ah, shit.
God damn. Okay.
Oh shit.
Okay. Right. We're good.
No,
We're
yeah,
good.
no, these things
Excellent.
these things really need a limiter on.
This is stunt
There's
podcasting.
There's probably a way to do that. Anyway.
Oh god! Oh, I crushed my balls.
This is after this long. It took us this long to pivot to video, but the pivot to video is a little like 4-minute thing ahead of the episode that is just us reclining our chairs too far. Oh my god!
I missed
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Here we are. All right, let's just this is another man reclining his chair, but
Wait,
that
hang
one
on,
probably
before
doesn't
we
go
get
that
into
his
far.
doesn't recline very far.
Before we get into the news, I have an announcement to make.
Okay.
First, to praise the Glorious Hogs, and then berate them for not doing enough.
Mhm.
So you Glorious Hogs raised about $4,000 for my coworker's grandson. He has muscular dystrophy. He needs a wheelchair van. We're up to $4,666. Hail Satan! But we need more money.
Hail
And
Satan
you're
4
gonna
times.
and you're gonna give us more money. So I'll put that in the video description.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this reclining man. Are these Koss Porta Pro headphones?
You
look like
have
Porta
been
Pros.
watching too much Dank Pods, I think.
Yeah.
To be able to
I'm
recognize that off the
interested-
dome.
I'm interested in what's going on with the tie.
I want this tie. It's a shame that this man is going to explode and die.
It's very whimsical. You know, the 90s were a whimsical tie sort of time.
Yeah,
Yes.
what is it? The third gen Taurus with the little cute little ass.
Mm.
What I'm saying is, I want to fuck the Ford Taurus.
You have been watching too much Dank Pods.
Hello and welcome
Hey, Roz.
to Well, There's Your Problem. It's a podcast about engineering disasters with slides.
And definitely
I'm
not fucking
Justin
a Ford
Rosniak.
Taurus.
I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are he and him. Okay, go.
It's the podcast where we plug 2 podcasts before our own. I'm November Kelly. I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are she and her. Yay, Liam.
Yay, Liam. Hi, I'm Liam McAnderson. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm doing that now.
Oh god damn it!
Oh.
You outwoke
Yeah.
me. You come into my own home and
You
outwoke
come into
me.
my house on the day of my daughter's wedding.
And I hope
And you-
that your first child will be a non-binary child.
Hey, man. Give me 30 seconds and I'll get up to speed with any pronouns.
I did an uncomfortably close to Bernie Sanders Luca Brasi there. I'm not thrilled about how that came out.
99% of the pronouns are used by 1% of Americans. Vote for me, Bernie Sanders. We're going to redistribute the pronouns. Go to www.berniesanders.com.
I am no longer asking for your pronouns.
We have a guest.
We have a guest.
We have a guest.
Hello. My name is Maya Ventura. My pronouns are it's, and she, her, which is 4, so I've now taken that
God damn it.
that crown. I run a newsletter. It's called Laser Chronicles. Some of you read it. Most of you probably know me from the last time I was on here.
Yeah, but welcome back. I mean, pretty close to consecutive
Yes.
guests.
Chronologically, very recent.
Maya,
Yeah.
you have a podcast to plug too, bud.
I do, yes. I was going to do that at the end, and I forgot, so thank you. I also
figured you would.
I also host Queens of the Monsters, which is a podcast about kaiju films,
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
which has been dormant for a year and is going to hopefully be back up before this episode comes out. But if not, it will be immediately afterwards. So looking forward to that.
Hell yeah.
So, what we see on the screen in front of us is a man
Mm.
who is relaxing in a luxurious seat on an airliner.
This is like peak
now.
90s Euro vibes. Look at the arm holding the not iPad in front of him. Like that's so
No.
overbuilt. Like now that would be a flimsy little like flex thing, but that's like built in there like a throttle quadrant. It's like
Yeah, that thing folds into the armrest. That thing is like, it's made out of metal. Like a person had to make that as opposed to an iPad, which I assume just sort of,
well, a child had to make that. You know?
Yeah, someone thought about it and it came into being through like AI or something. I don't know.
before all of the labor was externalized and abstracted from you.
Yeah, exactly. This was made by a horrible man in an Airbus factory.
It's true. This was made by a horrible Frenchman.
It's like AMG doing the one man, one engine, but it's just one angry, striking French worker. One shitty little tablet thing.
He's got a tiny little bottle of champagne. He's drinking that champagne out of a.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about when entertainment systems go wrong. Swissair Flight 111.
Well, hang on, we pivoted to video, so let me do this real quick. Flight entertainment gone naughty, gone wild.
No, I'm not fond of that. Also, you're not in the thing because we just have the video before the slideshow starts because we're not getting Dev to like cut in our own video at this point. Like that would be
it's stuck like this. There's nothing I can do.
Okay. The expression it's a source of pain. Like it's an expression of pain.
We'd have to get like a full streaming setup, right? Where like everything goes on. I have to get another monitor.
You have to get two. What?
No, I have to get another one.
It's just
third one.
Everything about this podcast somehow always becomes more work, and yet we never release it any more consistently.
Nope, we never will. Fuck you.
No, unlikely. And then I have to get, we have to get 4 extra inputs, one for Liam, one for Nova, one for me, one for the guest, one for Activate Windows.
At this point, we just buy some kind of hyper yacht and we fly us all out to international waters.
We could probably expense a hyper yacht. We have a good account.
To record this in person. I say international waters because, like, obviously I'm not going to the US anytime soon because they will find the JD Vance memes in my phone and send me to El Salvador.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot they were doing that. We didn't put that in the goddamn news because first we have to do the goddamn news.
Recursive.
That was a tremendous.
Hold on, let me get the.
There we
go. Yeah. Zoran Mamdani.
MAMDANI. Let's fucking go.
Along with Brad Lander, did the RRR Natu suspenders dance to Andrew Cuomo and killed him.
Andrew Cuomo has died. He has been killed.
Andrew Cuomo has been killed.
And in the words of Brad Lander, good fucking riddance.
Thank God.
Yeah.
God. But who is gonna... No, I don't want to do it.
I have died.
Who is going to bring home the ZD?
So I get to talk about this. Bless my stupid puppy life. I get to talk about this on 3 separate podcasts, one of which is entirely mayor focused. We've talked about this on Trash Future. We talked about all the like political implications of that. I'm going to talk about the mayoral implications. Mostly for this one, I'm just soaking up the vibes because the vibes were immaculate. Like,
the vibes are really good. Everyone loves Zoran. Zoran is so good. It's like everything about him is like positive. Like this man has never had a negative vibe in his life.
No, he's amazing. And like the thing I was saying on TF as well is that like there are people like this everywhere, right? Like I don't want to do hero worship in the sense of like I want to do great man theory to New York City, right? Like
no, I'm gonna start a cult of personality around this guy. I think that's a good idea.
By the standards of politicians, yeah, he's unusually charismatic and like everything like that. He's very good at what he did. I don't think he put a foot wrong in the campaign. But
I think he should become Stalin.
I agree completely.
Yeah,
okay.
I think governor, senator, president after we change a couple of amendments. But like,
We can do that.
and listen, I'll be proud to fight and die for him
Supreme
in
leader.
American Civil War too.
We could make him an Ayatollah.
I don't know if that really. Anyway,
That's not going to resonate with the Midwest voters, man.
The thing I was going to say is, you know somebody like this, or you know someone who knows someone like this, and what this is a success of organizing, right? Of having particularly DSA NYC being able to create a candidate and support a candidate like this, because a few years ago he was doing like leafleting and stuff, right?
Yes,
and that's hard work on his part, but that's hard work on everybody's part, and I'm certain he would tell you the same thing, right? So it's not just, and like, I think we're allowed to have some hesitation about electoralism. I'm sure in office he's going to do some things by nature of being in office that are going to be bad, but it's strategic, right? And you're allowed to be happy about this. You can live out. You have permission to live out.
exactly.
And the worst people in the world are real mad about it, which is not how you work out.
That's the important part in all this, I would say. Certainly as far as I've experienced.
Andrew Cuomo successfully sent back to the suburbs, for one.
Yeah, this is true. Even those of us who are fucking technocratic nerds who have concerns about free buses, pretty happy about this result.
You just don't like him because he's a bus guy and you're a train guy, and those are like two houses alike in dignity, you know?
Shut up.
But yeah, so he's now got to, like, because the other thing about this is it's been structured in such a way that he's having to fight his way through increasing levels of creeps, because now he's got to beat Eric Adams and like whatever kind of insane third party write-in candidate that Bill Ackman tries to organize.
Oh yeah,
and there's a GOP candidate as well.
Isn't it Sliwa again?
Like, Sliwa, yeah.
They did not. They didn't have a primary. They just nominated him by acclamation.
Incredible.
This is fucking,
it's like St. Peter,
yeah. This is like centrist infighting. I can't believe these centrists are like so fucking disorganized.
You gotta be glib. You gotta be smug. If anybody says any shit about Zoran, you gotta like get completely like peaceful and beatific in your expression, and you gotta hit him with a vote blue no matter who.
Yes,
this is true.
Exactly.
The thing about the centrist infighting is that my understanding from what I have heard from people who worked in New York, I used to be an organizer, I should probably clarify. From what I've heard in New York, this is basically what happened to Andrew Cuomo, because Democratic voters sort of told establishment officials, people in power, party officials, whatever, that they didn't like any of the candidates like towards the end of last year. So they were like, okay, we're going to give you Andrew Cuomo. And then they gave them Andrew Cuomo. And this is where we are now.
This is, it's amazing because like all the other candidates just, everyone united and was like, okay, whoever you vote for, just don't vote for Andrew Cuomo. This was like just a don't vote for Andrew Cuomo election. And everyone was pretty chummy, which is pretty funny, which is apparently something you can do with ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got to expand this system.
We'll
never let it happen again.
Please let us have it in Philly. I am so tired of Sherelle Parker.
As far as the like Cuomo campaign as well, like if you think about it this way, he came out with two messages, right? Message number one, I know it's against the odds, but all 13 women are lying.
And number two, I stand with Israel.
Exactly, right. And the thing is, like, Eric Adams and whoever else is going to be able to like go into fucking Zoran's old tweets where he's like defund the police or whatever, and you have that argument now. But he didn't have to have it previously, because the argument that he was having instead is, actually, I'm not a member of the Al-Qassam brigades, and that's an insane and racist thing to say about me. Like, and it was so obvious to everybody, like, and it completely backfired. And I think you have to look at this, apart from anything else, as this like seismic shift in terms of like Israel and Palestine in the American like electoral calculus.
One of the more interesting things was the day after the election when all the New York conservatives tried to tie him to 9/11 in order to do racism. But like,
they were just like, average, America forgot. It was like
the average, they did find his passport in the rubble.
The problem with politicians, right, is sometimes you look at them and you're like, you've never done anything interesting in your life. You've advanced too early, too fast. And too high, and you're just like, yeah, if he was doing 9/11 at the age of 10, it's like, what hope is there for the rest of us? 9/11 at 10, mayor of New York City at a year younger than me, and it's like I'm having a midlife crisis properly.
Yeah, I wish I had done 9/11 at 10.
You were 10 when 9/11. No, you were 8 when 9/11
I try to come to the US and they're just like,
8.
which episode of the podcast should we put on in the holding room? Just so you can understand why you're getting sent to El Salvador.
I'm a US citizen. I'm allowed to do 9/11.
Natural born, too.
I'm not allowed to be on the podcast with you saying that you're allowed to do 9/11 is the problem.
I have a constitutional right to do 9/11.
Why am I being detained? I know my rights.
Day one, not even of the Zoran administration, but the Zoran nomination. And you're like getting a bit ahead of it. Like, I have the right to do 9/11.
It's not even day one. The RCV thing is like next week. But
God damn it.
It's like day -6.
You don't know.
It's like, the interesting thing is that, of course, New York conservatives pulled out 9/11, but like the average conservative everywhere else, including the executive branch, is a Jews did 9/11 guy these days.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out too good.
So I mean,
poorly.
It's also like. They're also trying to suggest that he's going to do Sharia law in New York City.
That one...
Yeah, let's go.
Better than the NYPD, probably.
Yeah,
I haven't checked, but if we can do like the woke Sharia, if we can institute that, then let's fucking go,
I would support woke Sharia at this point. Why not? Fuck it.
Everyone has to have... Yeah. Everyone has to dye their hair. Everyone's gonna have to get a septum piercing.
You actually listen. You are allowed not to have neopronouns, but you just have to pay a tax for it. It's a small thing. It's like it's a formality, Yeah, so I'm really happy. There is, of course, always the scope. This is if you have the right to do 9/11, right? I, as a leftist, always have the right to like piss and moan about anything and like ruin anybody's day. And so there is a theoretical way where you're like, this is electoralism. It's a distraction. It's not going to do anything. It's like, it's taking people away from burning down the Walmarts or whatever, right? And if he socializes the Walmarts, then there won't be even any point in burning down the Walmarts. So
that's a good point.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
So I guess you could do that, but the thing is, if you're doing that, you are sort of more radical than the Communist Party of India brackets Marxist, which congratulated him today on having been nominated. So
that's why I only subscribe to Communist Party of India brackets Maoist.
Good enough. I believe there are several of those. Last time I checked, or at least several.
There's like
more
50
all
of
the
them.
time.
Yeah.
It's like atomic decay,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I obviously very happy to hear that like every New Yorker who wears glasses is going to be killed, and like an army of halal cart guys is going to be sort of like armed and deputized to enforce the woke Sharia.
There's going to be state-run grocery stores, and you're going to have to go there, and you're going to have to purchase deli meats.
It's going to be like
a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah. They're going to make you do that, like in communist Cuba.
They're gonna nationalize Boar's Head.
Considering all the listeria, that's probably not a bad
idea. Yeah, so
people are gonna have to smuggle in Dietz and Watson deli meats.
This is the first time that I felt good about things politically, anything politically, for a minute. And I know it's like different because I live in a different country. I'm thousands of miles away. It doesn't affect me directly, but I'm happy for my friends in New York. I'm happy for my friends in America, because like, if it is possible to learn any lessons from this, I have total faith that the Democratic Party will fail to do that, right? But if they do, if they surprise me, then the rewards are great, right? Because people like it when you believe in things and they like the policies. And if you just advocate on that basis, then you do very well. I know it's completely foreign to everything the Democratic Party wants to do anywhere, but learn the fucking lesson, guys.
Maybe this finally collapses the Democratic Party.
No,
Inshallah.
That blood machine. Blood machine never break.
It's like, do you want abundance, the thing that is very well thought of by a bunch of columnists and fails all the time, or do you want this, right? So
well, I think the abundance guys like Zoran.
Yeah, he doesn't like him back though, which is really funny. It's like why won't you follow me back? It's like they're trying to get on Sharper.
Matt Iglesias doesn't like him, and he's like, as far as I can tell, the head abundance guy these days.
The abundance pope.
Yeah, Matt Iglesias turned himself into the abundance guy when I think the actual abundance guys seem to be a little nicer, but Matt Iglesias is now the face of the movement.
Oh yeah,
he's the worst guy imaginable.
Yeah, they had a weird fucking conference in DC like a couple months ago, and it was genuinely the most surreal thing I've ever seen, including all the times I've worked in politics.
Yeah, so good things are possible. Electoralism is back on the menu. Wolf Howl.
It's true.
Like it's all good. And I don't know how that translates to a British context, other than maybe we'll join the Green Party. I don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of good things being possible.
That's it.
We bombed Iran and it didn't do shit.
Right, that's true. Where are you articulating the good thing here? Like, is the good thing that Iran appears to have like weathered being bombed by the U.S. Air Force?
We knocked a door in, apparently.
That's cool.
we like, sort of again, there was a sound
vandalized
in
a poster
the bunker
of some kind.
There was a sound in the bunker that sounded like the upstairs neighbor's cat jumping off a table.
All it cost was like $2 trillion and like 18 hours of flying time for 100 aircraft.
Yeah, I was about to say this was like $100 and something million operation.
Being like, well, how come if we bombed Iran, the B-2 took 36 hours to do it, but I can take a flight from and it's just like
it's because of flat Earth.
Well, they were just like, no, they got it confused with the B-52. So
the problem in this case, and the reason why there's possibly been not much damage is because of the opposite of flat Earth, which is pointy Earth.
Yes, because the mountain.
Yeah,
or in
the
mountain, raised in a cave, nukes and fucking is all I crave.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's because we're doing this podcast. Obviously, the goddamn news has never been more overtaken by events. Like fucking World War III almost started while we were out there for a minute.
We gotta wait another couple months before doing an oops all news.
But we sort of like ended up with Israel trying to start a war with Iran and drag the US into it, and then Trump agreeing to like bomb the side of a mountain and then getting really mad at everyone involved, which is
I did a good job.
First time you got like a president dropping the word fuck on a like live broadcast, which was cool.
That was pretty funny.
Biden already did it when he was VP. I guess he was VP, not president.
VP,
yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
this is a big fucking deal. Yeah,
big fucking deal. Yeah, but.
I will say there's a lot of people who are like the thing about him saying that he wants peace after bombing is obviously illogical and just a diversion. But like, no, Donald Trump is very much this stupid.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yes.
Like, but yeah. So I mean,
we're all gonna throw a few bombs at each other, and we're gonna shut up afterwards, right? This is like a stupid fight you had when you were drunk after a night at the bar.
Yeah.
that was pretty dumb.
And now after having done this and after having been sort of like bombed a little bit in return, Israel are like, okay, well, that was cool. Now we're going back to the genocide in Gaza.
Right. They literally
this is true.
that.
This is true. Yeah.
I guess so the nuke wasn't that big a deal.
Apparently not.
Yes.
No. And I mean, I hold out hope for Trump getting frustrated and petty and doing a kind of like Zelensky style humiliation to Netanyahu, but that would be cool. But I'm not holding my breath.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
JD Vance hitting him with the "Have you even said thank you once?" Like,
I do like the idea, but I read
they throw his dirty laundry at him, like the literal dirty laundry he brings each time.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't know. This struck me as like an extremely funny thing when it was happening. When it was like, oh, we bombed Iran. it was like, okay, the first 5 minutes you looked at it, you're like, oh, this is horrifying. Then you realize what they bombed, and it's like, oh, they tried to bomb the thing that's inside a mountain.
Yeah.
Yes.
The non-mountain bombing is bad, but at least now it seems to have kind of like come to an end for the moment. Nothing new to say about Israel being a kind of like dangerously genocidal warmongering state, right? Which is a threat to, at this point, global security. And the sole check on that is a real estate developer from Queens getting mad at them. So that's cool.
I will say the Islamic Republic of Iran are the most patient people on earth. I think at this point they have earned an award for that, certainly. Because this is, of course, now the second time that they've been bombed. And the first time they just kind of sent the drones and did nothing else. And then this time the most warmongering country in the world bombed them. So they just kind of sent the drones and not much else.
Well, they're still trying to figure out how to kill SpongeBob.
That's true. That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
When they bombed that one US base, Trump said one of the funnier things he's ever said, which is just by way of arranging this. They're like they called ahead, right, to be like, hey, can we bomb your base? Is
when's a good time? You could
bomb.
When can we drop a bomb? And Trump's like, about 1 p.m. What's up with you? And he's like twirling the cord of the phone around his finger.
Asking the Ayatollah, like, so how's doing anything later?
It's really funny.
Slow burn, anal fisting.
The like remaining kind of command of the like Iranian armed forces are just like all of their colleagues are getting like effortlessly murdered with their families, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna have to escalate this a bit. I'm gonna move to the next chapter of this book by this guy Baudrillard, and we're really gonna sort this out. I'm gonna call the Americans and ask if I can bomb their base.
We do conceivably have better negotiations standpoints with Iran now than we do Israel.
Yeah,
so that's
by far.
That's
that's true.
The joke I always tell about this is I came up with this when it was the Soleimani assassination, and it's still true. That like
I forgot about that.
Being a kind of
so
Iranian decision maker is like you've trained for years to become a kind of chess grandmaster, and you're up against a guy who keeps eating your pieces, right?
Yeah.
No, that seems perfectly reasonable.
Spit it out.
I will say, whenever this happened, I was watching The Social Network, and it took about 5 minutes before I put my phone down and kept watching the movie. So that was, whenever this is the closest we can come to a major global conflict, I would say it's interesting, but the fact that one party, which is Israel, wants to make a major global conflict and can't do it. Yeah. So, that's very amusing to me. I don't want to say nothing ever happens, but like Iran are very patient people, and they might want to make nothing ever happen.
I feel like you've kind of
about to say.
I feel like you've kind of guaranteed an Iranian nuclear weapon on a long enough timeline.
Well, we did that as soon as we scrapped the JCPOA.
That's true. That is true.
Yep. So that's nothing really new there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at this point, the biggest threat right now is the Israelis getting really mad at nothing and doing the Samson option.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know. They'll probably do that at some point.
Hope not.
They put out all these videos of like, oh, Iran is going to nuke Paris. And then they nuke Paris.
Yeah. Honestly, get along with it. Maybe it'll kill some of the rats. I've already seen the Mona Lisa. Just get rid of Paris. It's fine.
Size of a postage stamp. It's
it was bigger than I thought because I had been told by everyone that it was smaller than I would think it would be, and then it was bigger than I thought it would be because I had like internalized that so much.
That's a good managing expectations right there. That's a good skill.
It's the only time I've ever done it successfully.
Yeah. I've been to the Freer Gallery. I know how small paintings can be. They can be really small.
I remember I was at the V&A with my dad, and they have those gigantic like royal portraits that are like 12 feet tall, and my dad like grabbed a curator and was like, why is it so big?
I don't want Israel to nuke Paris because my ex lives there and I'm fond of my ex. Can we negotiate on this? Can we nuke somewhere that I'm probably never going to go, like Stockholm?
They can't nuke Stockholm.
Sure. Leon must be destroyed.
Yeah.
Frankfurt.
There you go.
Do we know anyone in Frankfurt? This is
We
there's an
probably
old,
do. This is a global podcast.
there's an old Russian joke, right, which came up again in the context of the Ukraine war, where the Russian generals are like, okay, well, we got to bomb the West. Where do we bomb? Like, we're going to bomb Paris. And it's like, no, my wife likes to go shopping there. Okay, well, we're going to bomb London. Oh, you can't bomb London. My kid goes to school there. Okay, well, we're gonna bomb, I don't know, like Geneva. All my money's there. And they argue about this for like an hour. And eventually they're like, all right, fine. We bomb Voronezh, which is in Russia. Because it's the one place that none of them care about, right?
Yeah. We're going to, folks, we're going to bomb Moline, Davenport.
I want to go to Davenport.
What are the other?
Just nuke Tel Aviv and get it over with.
They could always take the funniest option and nuke Moscow, and just like
total agents of chaos.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah.
Is Israel bored of not getting the attention? Nukes Kiev and Moscow simultaneously.
That's true. They could do that. Yeah.
All right, figure that out, dickheads.
Pyongyang as well.
The one option, the one country on Earth deterrence doesn't work against. aside from Poland.
Oh yes, obviously. It's because they have solidarity.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's true.
And Pope, well, they don't have a Pope anymore.
They're still dining out on the one Pope. Yeah, America has a Pope. You know, America's the Pope's nation.
That's true.
He went to Villanova, doesn't count.
I mean, I can't make fun of the White Sox anymore because I feel slightly bad. Like I'm, I'm making more points against me to get into heaven in case the Catholics are correct.
Yeah. Well, what can you say? But go Sox.
Mm-hmm.
That was,
and also with you.
Yeah, and with your spirit.
Fuck. Yeah, I changed it on you.
That was the goddamn news. We talk about in-flight entertainment.
Oh shit! Yeah. Okay.
Stare straight ahead at the
raw dog it. Why is I saw the TV glow on here?
That's actually my picture.
God, watching I saw the TV glow at the beginning of like an 18-hour flight. You get your egg cracked. You're like, oh fuck, I'm in the hell zone, and you've got another like 16 hours of flying.
Oh boy.
And you're flying out somewhere, so you can't even get home to start transitioning. You're just
Well, the good news is this is my picture, and I took it on a flight to Seattle. So I mean, it's a relatively good place to end up at the end of that.
Yeah, they just meet you off the plane, you know.
Yes.
You know what film I watch on the airplane?
Is it Airplane?
Yes.
It's a good film to watch on an airplane.
For all the times you
it's a pretty
fly.
good film to watch on an airplane.
I have an audiobook that I only listen to while I'm flying. And I refuse to listen to it at any other time. So like I've had to listen to this in like 2-hour sprints over the past like 40 years. Almost halfway through, baby.
my version of raw dogging is I sort of semi raw dog. I wrap it up, right? Like but not very effectively. I take
like
my
a paper towel.
Yeah, gross. I take my like noise canceling headphones and I just listen to music, but I'm looking at my phone to see what the music that I'm listening to is all the time.
Yep.
That's the real like autism locking in, and I'm doing that for like 5-6 hours.
What happens to me is, I get a beer and I sit down, and when there's some mild turbulence, I'm absolutely terrified.
Yeah, you are. Flying with you is my version of hell.
Like a cat that's been splashed with water. You're just like digging into the seat rests.
Yeah,
this is true. Yeah,
he does do that.
I flew on a very small aircraft in a whiteout this back in February, so I no longer feel any fear on larger aircraft, which is an experience I recommend for everybody, and also do not recommend for anybody.
I gotta turn my air conditioning down because it's 200 million fucking degrees in Philly, and I have 3 desktops running in here.
It's also 2 million degrees here, and I've had to close mine in the other room because it's too loud. So I'm suffering, but that's fine.
You should all move to Glasgow, the climate-proof city. I was in London for a week doing the Trash Future live show, and it was the hottest venue I've ever done. It was like fucking 50 billion degrees in there because it was like a concrete basement. And we got a bunch of Gwen, my wife, took a bunch of like promotional photos of us, and every single one of us is like mostly sweat.
It's about right. Yeah. Actually.
Yeah. Then I got back to London. Then I got back to Glasgow, and it's like, oh, it's pleasantly cool. Meanwhile, like you look at the kind of weather app on your phone, and it's like the place that you just left is currently on fire.
Yes, I will say
it was 101 2 days ago here.
God damn.
Yes,
the first time we broke 113 years apparently.
I was going to say something and now I forget what it was. Well, it was about the weather. It's just been insufferable. Oh, right, yeah. We've had Canadian wildfire smoke and the heat at the same time. It's been real nice.
Oh my god!
Can you hear my fan?
No.
Excellent. All right, I'm humid again.
Not humid again, which is actually the problem.
No, I am. So be stinky after this one.
So time was. I'm pulling us back on topic here. Time was.
Oh, fuck you.
If you were, I gotta do it. If you were kind of like on a plane, you're like, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. You wander down to the parlor or whatever, the dedicated dining room.
Yeah.
You go to the smoking room. You take part in an Agatha Christie murder mystery because you're on a flying boat or whatever the fuck. And okay, it takes 8 hours because it's flying at like 5 miles an hour. But like
you're on a Hindenburg.
Yeah.
And you go and you go to the restaurant and then you go to the smoking room, which has 35 doors between you and the outside world.
Yes.
Flicking a cigarette butt off the end of the like out of the Hindenburg must feel so good.
Can you imagine the Marlboro Unlimited plane?
Oh fuck yes.
Oh shit.
Oh, where's my Marlboro Unlimited back?
God, the Marlboro Unlimited was like the greatest concept to me, as like the worst experience for any human to go through, and I would have killed somebody to get to experience.
Oh yeah, me too.
Even as somebody who hasn't smoked in 5 years. Anyway.
It's fine. You make those 5 years back in about 10 minutes.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. That's true.
But yeah,
catching up for lost time.
Yeah. But so eventually, like maybe you want to do something else besides go and murder one of your fellow passengers, right? Like
maybe.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I don't want to murder.
You're gonna have to lead a bit.
Yeah. Sorry. This is the top left here. This is what they call the first example of in-flight entertainment. It's called the world's first aircraft cinema. It says there.
Oh my god.
This, in case you haven't noticed, is just a regular film projector that they are loading into what it looks like a Ford Tri-Motor to me.
Oh, that's going to shake so much.
It
you
is.
gotta crank it manual, like the propellers have a belt.
With Imperial Airways, LTD.
Yes, this this was a British innovation. Except I think
There's
started.
no such thing as a British innovation.
We gave you. I saw the TV glow on a seatback TV. Like
that's true. Except I think they were actually the second to do it, and this banner's a lie, but I can't remember what the first one was. I looked it up in my research and did not write it down.
Back in the day, you could just lie. You could just do that.
Yes. This was the first one to have a picture taken for it, which means it might as well be the first one in terms of documentation.
Hell yeah.
So, and also notably, this was 1925. So, of course, film was made of nitrate at this point. And if you know anything about nitrate film, it has a tendency to spontaneously combust.
I have a message for Germany.
This was not a problem, but like it is an interesting concept to load the spontaneously flammable material aboard the very small aircraft. In any case, I don't think we killed anybody with that.
Everybody's smoking.
Yes.
Everybody's throwing their like lit cigarette ends towards the back of the plane.
It's a DC-3. It's basically invincible.
That's true. I mean, it's a tri-motor, which is close enough. Yeah. But this was a point in time whenever planes were sometimes made of wood, and if they got too wet, the wings would.
We won the war with the mosquito.
If they got too wet, the wings would come unglued, and that killed people a few times.
But the wings fall off button.
Yeah, the wings fall off rain.
God.
In the middle here, this is a ad from Trans World Airlines, an airline that I have made jokes about for the past 10 years. I've been trans. This is sort of a later but more common concept of in-flight entertainment, which is still just a film projector. But like by the 1950s, film projectors had gotten like normal enough that there was like a specialized industry for this, for in-flight entertainment specifically.
Is that what this is on the bottom left? Is that a projector?
That's a later one.
It does look sick.
Yeah, that's a later one. This is the original one, which would have just been a film projector, not really that far off from the same technology on the older one. Since of course films have gained the technology of sound in the intervening 25 years, 30 years, they had developed in-flight audio, which was done by pneumatic tubes at this point in time, in a system I don't really understand.
That's you start getting the pneumatic tube canister through to your seat. It's just like, and you open it up and it just plays a noise.
I don't really understand that.
That's wild.
That is more fun than like a static card with dialogue on.
Well, because originally, if you were screening a silent movie in a plane, you got to get the projector in there, and then you've got to get the pianist as well. So,
that's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, of course, notably, planes were so loud in the first one that the pianist had to play very loudly the whole time.
Boom! Engine falls off.
Yes. That would also happen.
Have upright piano.
Yes,
just dragging that bitch. What kind of airplane or airport specialty vehicle do you need to load the upright piano?
No, I think it's like an integral structural part of the airplane.
You'd hope so. Otherwise, you're doing like a
much like the ashtrays,
and the piano's going from side to side.
The piano, once the rain starts, the piano is the only thing keeping the wing on.
It's a load-bearing piano.
The pneumatic tube thing.
This load-bearing piano you shouldn't have detuned.
The pneumatic tube thing is weird, and I don't understand it. As far as I can tell, Delta had them until like 2006 on some planes, which is even more confusing because Delta flies absolutely ancient aircraft until the wings essentially fall off, and they still do that.
It's because they don't put the piano on there, and they don't know, that in certain kinds of turbulence, the only thing you can do is play Clair de Lune. That's the only thing that keeps the wing on.
Banging out Nearer My God to Thee on the DC-3.
It's gonna make the same goddamn joke. Fuck.
It's not formulaic, it's a callback.
Yes. The bottom left is not one of the projectors that was featured in the middle, except that's a simulated screenshot, but this is a slightly later one. This is a projector that is essentially made of 3 cathode ray tubes that each do red, green, and blue. If you know how a rear projection TV from like the 1980s or 90s works, it's basically the same concept. They were not great, but they could run for infinite amounts of time and didn't really require maintenance. So
it looks very space age, and I guess this is one of the things that like airplane food or whatever that just kind of stagnates for a while, just plateaus. And
what's the deal with that?
Yeah, becomes fodder for stand-up comedians because it's just a fact of life of flying that everyone has to accept. As you're all looking at the movie that they screen on, like you have no choice in this.
Yes,
you can either like get the headphones or the little pneumatic tubes or whatever, or not. So you can either like watch Cary Grant muted or watch Cary Grant with sound, but you have to watch him.
Yes.
I think it'd be funny if you were an airline and you're like, we're going to do some like really, really out there films. Like, folks, today's in-flight film is Come and See.
I hate flying Alitalia. They made me watch Sallow, 120 Days of Sodom.
Letterboxd should charter aircraft for weird film screenings.
Do not give them that idea. They will do it. They have the marketing budget to do whatever kind of silly bullshit they hear someone with enough followers say on the internet. They will do that.
Thank God I have less than 1,000 followers still.
Yeah.
So the one at the bottom left, this is what they had sort of after the film projector, but it's the same basic sort of concept. You're just projecting a film from a central source. They were mostly done from tapes at this point. Not like VHS tapes, but like Video 8 tapes, which I'm sure like 5 of you are going to know what I'm talking about. It's a little
audience of trans women going, yo.
That's a fair point. Also, audience of like Techmoan viewers. I know there's a fair overlap there.
Oh, including me,
yeah. I know you do because I know you're there because you're in the fucking Patreon credits every time I watch.
Jesus Christ, am I? I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I should become a Patreon of that guy. I like.
I love Techmoan.
He's good. He's good at his work. But that's Video 8 was just sort of the small tape format, not super relevant here. This sort of projector was common in airlines, but also a bunch of other places. You'll notice this picture is actually of it mounted in like a classroom or something. But it's the exact same thing. It's just 3 cathode ray tubes that get really hot and put a lot of voltage through them, and they project an image. And it looks bad, but you can project an image with reliability, and that's what they need.
At least you can't set this one on fire with a cigarette, though.
Yes.
Yes.
If you've ever watched Die Hard 2, they should turn on The Simpsons with one of these. On the right is just sort of this is sort of where we are now. This is the seat back in-flight entertainment. These have been around for probably 20 years or so. This is a picture that I took. This was also on Delta Airlines, coincidentally. They have moved past pneumatic tubes and have gone towards...
Wow. Joining the 21st century.
Yes. This is just sort of how most people would recognize in-flight entertainment as the big screen that you can touch and you can watch movies. Nowadays, it's for free. It used to be that you had to pay for them. But nowadays, the sort of airlines that would make you pay for them just don't give you anything at all, which is very funny.
I remember when in the back of the seat there was a weird bulky telephone.
Yes.
Yes.
First time I ever flew, my parents yelled at me for even getting close to trying to touch the damn thing.
You were charged $5,000 dues for for touching the Skyphone.
Yes.
Yeah.
$5,000 was a lot more in 1999.
Yeah.
And also this was like 2005, so like at that point they were gluing over some of them, but like some of them the glue panels had fallen off and the foam was still there because US Airways was a bad airline.
I always wonder, and I don't know if there's an answer to this, about how curated the like seat back video is. Like, can I watch Flight on a plane? Like, is that allowed? Am I allowed to see Denzel Washington doing coke before flying the plane? Right? Like,
they're pretty heavily every film that I have seen, except for TV Glow, funnily enough, has been like trimmed or censored in some way. I watched the first Austin Powers film on a flight like a couple years ago, and there were actually scenes where they had cropped down the picture to censor something and did not have enough resolution, so it was just very blurry compared to the scenes before it and the scene after it.
Airline Sharia law.
Yeah, that's actually accurate. Yeah,
we've got a clumsily drawn like turtleneck over Heather Graham.
I watched the French Dispatch on the plane.
I would do that. That would be good.
And it had there is a scene with nudity, and it was just there. It was fine.
Huh. I have not.
Maybe it's only on flights to Europe where they don't have morals.
Yeah, you're scrolling past Sallow.
Yeah, exactly.
But like.
That's too tame for me.
Yeah. I mean, I also my question was sort of like not so much about like sex and violence, but like
what they have on there. Yeah.
Do they kind of avoid? Do they like block out the ones that are gonna set people off into fits of hysterics because they include the, like wings falling off a plane? Can I watch Alive on a plane? You know.
It's a good question. You can actually look at I'm looking at the flights that Delta has right now, and it all looks rather basic stuff. Oh, they got Jurassic Park on here.
You do got to kind of keep people calm, right? And like, okay, like you're not going to get that much exhilaration out of a tiny sort of like iPad-sized screen, but like you don't want to hit anyone's kind of like phobia of flying. And I've always wondered about that. Like how...
Not something I know the answer to, but now I also want to know.
It's actually all mentor pilot air crash videos.
I'm like popping open all of my aviation disaster specific YouTube channels.
They're putting this podcast on the plane.
I'm like, why? Yeah, I'll fly in with Delta.
We can be the last fucking. You ever see
hold on, I'm talking with United actually. Yeah,
getting us to do the safety briefing.
Oh hell yeah!
Emergency agents are real good. You ever see the dash cam videos we show up on sometimes where people are listening to us?
And then crash their cars?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about your car. It's very funny when that happens.
This is a new one. I've never heard this. This is the funniest thing I've heard.
I'm not sorry about your car. Fuck cars.
Doing the safety briefing, and it's like in the very unlikely event of an emergency, and you're told to assume the brace position. You're going to want to get your neck over something so that it snaps as quickly as possible, and you're just not present for like whatever happens next. You know.
I'm going off camera and off mic because I got to eat. So carry on.
That done like 3 people do that, and they're the only people who died because it was a perfectly fine landing.
And I am sued for $500 trillion.
So don't do that.
I do the last scene of Flight, but it's like I was on my phone. I'm on my phone now. Like I was posting.
Yeah, I was going to say, most airlines don't tell you to do the brace position, but most airlines don't really tell you anything of interest because nobody pays attention these days.
It's true.
That's true, yeah.
They try and make it like a fun little thing. It's dangerously plausible that we could do one.
I think Delta started making them like a fun little thing, and it just became a trend that nobody cares about because nobody watches the safety briefing.
Oh, a safety brief went viral.
Yes, this has happened. They have talked about this. It's fucking insane.
The United International Safety Brief is like, a fun jaunt through Europe with American in Paris playing in the background. And then like, the safety seems secondary. Yeah. That's how
most of them are.
I always like the British Airways one. I usually fly British Airways when I can if I get a choice, which you basically don't now. Just because there's something about the corporate affect of British Airways which has been made so deliberately soulless because all they had was like imperial nostalgia, and now they don't want to do that, so it's just kind of generic airline brackets British, which means the flight attendants wear like grey flannel and stuff. But the affect of the safety brief is very much like it's like a therapist, right? When you are being floridly insane, just trying to like gently and calmly reassure you that you're not gonna die on the plane. And I value that. I need that. I need the kind of banal Britishness of like, well, you're probably not gonna crash into water, but if you do, there's some things that you can do, and just think about those, but you're probably not going to need to.
I like United because I have the confidence that if someone is an asshole, they will break his legs and drag him off the plane.
That's a great. That is a completely reasonable point.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, they have like the strongest union culture of any of the major legacy airlines, so I assume these are somehow related to each other.
Oh my god, they get the biggest fucking thugs out there to take off an asshole. Yeah.
Italian American Airlines.
Yeah. Hey, United, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, the average safety briefing now on Delta, they will actually right now they talk about their corporate history because it's their 100th anniversary this year, which is not relevant and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Or you fly a low cost airline with no screens, or on regional, and so you just have the flight attendants giving you the most straight laced thing of your life, which they do not want to do and nobody's paying attention to.
Yeah.
Particularly I flew Frontier to Philly for the live show, and that was the most unattentive and like vaguely, I don't want to say uncivilized, but like I don't know, that crowd was questionable. Anyways, sorry I keep talking about Delta. It's the only airline I fly to because I fly to Seattle.
52 minutes in, we're on slide 1. Let's go.
Okay. Next slide. The good news. So the good news is the videotape thing on the right. I already talked about on accident. This was by the time the 90s came around, videotape was a lot more common. So you could start doing the whole individual in-seat entertainment system. The one on the left here. This is what Swissair had before the one we're going to talk about in a minute.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
and I need to control.
Really cool.
I need to control more things in my life with controls like this. I mean, if it was more like, is the word like skeuomorphic? If it had more like clicky clacky buttons and panels and stuff, then I would be more in favor of it. But this is really good still.
Yes. Yeah. This was the sort of.
This is why people still like Blackberries.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that at this point. So I get the point. This is so basically these just act as sort of a control hub for a videotape player that can also seek left and right. It's complex to explain in a way that doesn't actually matter. But by the time the early 90s come around, somebody had decided to come up with the interactive in-flight entertainment system. And the first company to do this, if you click the next slide, was actually Nintendo of all companies.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yes. So they were sort of the first major company to explore this. So they developed what they call the Nintendo Gateway system, which is very hard to find documentation about. So some of this is best guesswork.
This is like similar to the phone they charged you $5,000 if you touched.
Actually, yes, this is the yeah. So this was the sort of first, I quote unquote interactive setup that was really installed. It was installed on Northwest Airlines and a bunch of Japanese airlines and like Air Canada and British Airways, I think. It was fancy because you could pay to play Super Nintendo and eventually Game Boy games.
Ooh.
Which, you know, they also introduced this system in hotels, and one other scenario that I suddenly can't think of. But
you had to work so hard to be like a gamer back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, this wasn't even the first like in-flight video game system, but the first one is so stupidly
the first one was also on a 1925 British plane, but it's like you line up in the aisle and play quoits, and technically that counts.
Yeah, you know, you see the system installed. You see the system installed in a hotel, and like you have to pay extra to play Leisure Suit Larry.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You get like 3 hours entertainment out of that game. That's worth paying $5 for.
Yeah, boom.
I mean, not in 1990, it wasn't.
Oh yeah, no. Last time I played the first Leisure Suit Larry, I cheated the whole way through, so that's just how it goes. So yeah, this was sort of the first basic like interactive one. It's sort of the basic roadmap for what we have nowadays, the more common systems that we have nowadays. I don't know when these were retired. I really don't know anything about how they worked or how much they cost. I know how much it cost in hotels, because that was like $5 an hour to play Super Nintendo or N64 games, which is somewhat ridiculous, but never mind.
You're higher than minimum wage.
You're gonna find like some YouTuber flying to like an island off the coast of Chile or something in a plane that still has one of these in it, and he's taken that flight solely in order to find this. Like,
annoyingly, this sounds like something I would do, so I can't actually say anything negative.
Oh no,
about
it's really cool. Like I'm a big fan. There's a guy who just goes to like different bits of Central America looking for old planes that are still flying. So
no, I wish I had the money to do this, or else fortunately I can't, and unfortunately I can't go to Iran for old planes anymore because we blew up some of them the other day.
That was a bad decision.
If Israel touches a single F-14. Tie me to the fucking ICBM and fire it at Tel Aviv.
They blew up one, and they said that it was one that was like quote unquote minutes from takeoff, but it was obviously one that they were just using for spare parts.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, tie me to the ICBM, I guess.
Yeah.
They got the 747 SP out there too.
Not anymore. Also, they just have the 200, which I think Israel also blew up one of those.
God damn it! Can we not have anything nice in the world? Not only do you start a war, like it's not just Israel, it's like the US, it's Russia as well. It's like not only do you start a war, but you also destroy a bunch of really interesting aircraft. I am still mad about that, Antonov. I will be mad about that until the day I die.
About that too.
I think most people are. It's pretty reasonable. Yeah. I mean, they still want to rebuild it. They still want to rebuild it out of the other one that was like half done, but they got to find the money for it.
They're gonna have to. I mean, that was a very important aircraft globally for moving big stuff.
Like global logistical choke points, like for real.
So that was sort of the first stab at an interactive in-flight entertainment system. The second, more relevant one today, if you go to the next slide, we're actually going to get into the stuff that's relevant to this specific plane.
What are we doing on time so far? An hour?
An hour.
Doing great.
Starting a story now.
So in the year 1994, Yuri Itkis, a Soviet-born engineer who had immigrated to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, first mistake.
Started a company called Interactive Flight Technologies Incorporated. The company's vision was to develop a state-of-the-art interactive in-flight entertainment system, close quote, they could integrate and sell to any airlines that wanted such a thing on any aircraft, any long-haul aircraft, I should say. As I've written here, the company's other vision was presumably to enrich the family, because as far as I could tell, the company started with 5 employees, all of which in the immediate family of the first guy we mentioned.
Hell
here.
Yeah.
Nice.
The nepotism angle and the small business owner angle will come back in quite a few times, so this is something to keep in mind.
You can't even get into the in-flight entertainment system business if you're not an Itkis.
Yeah.
So I have seen this exact map.
This is when
so
they invented.
familiar. Yeah.
This is when they invented that relief map that you have spent hours bored out of your mind looking at. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we there yet? No. Are we there yet? No. Are we there yet? No.
It's like, damn, I know what our like ground airspeed is. That's useful information to me. Like,
yes.
Ooh, we can watch LA Confidential.
It's because I'm monitoring the situation.
It's a good film.
I am, that is the benefit of the big map, is you do get to be like, I'm pretty certain, like, I have no input over what the pilot's doing, but I'm monitoring, I'm supervising. I'm pretty sure they're
monitoring the situation. If something goes wrong in the cockpit, I've done an ocular pat down. I can go up there and resolve any problem that may occur.
Actually, something I didn't mention that's relevant to that. In the 70s, American Airlines and a couple others started putting cameras in the cockpit that they would broadcast to the cabin for passengers to look at.
Whoa.
And they did that until American Airlines 191 happened and an engine fell off and they all watched themselves fly into the ground at high speed.
Nice.
And then they stopped doing that.
Oh,
but if I were there monitoring the situation,
I wouldn't have gone down like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's the McDonnell Douglas / Boeing seal of quality there. To be fair.
Stewardess, I've played Microsoft Flight Simulator.
I'm going to remind you that you can buy from the store, which is going to be in the links, a McDonnell Douglas will kill you t-shirt. I saw someone wearing one to the Trash Future live show. It looked good as hell.
I saw someone wearing one at the Philly live show, and I went up and introduced myself, like, "Hey."
That was somebody. Sorry, go ahead.
And they didn't recognize who I was instantly, which is quite funny, but completely understandable.
There was somebody wearing a Meat Deck shirt at the London show.
Yeah. Someone bought one.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, amazingly.
I got to get one of them.
Purchase our merchandise
from the Workwear collection.
Our merch or Poom.
Yeah, poop. People order our merchandise.
So by 1995, Interactive Flight Technologies, IFT, they developed the first generation system. As far as I can tell, they sold this to one airline, which was Alitalia.
They really wanted to show you Salo. They were obsessed about it. It was fucked up, to be honest.
Look, it's not for everyone. It is a cinematic masterpiece. I understand.
Yeah. Alitalia doesn't exist anymore, so I can call them absolute freaks on the internet without libeling anyone.
Oh yeah,
there's just a bunch of like spaghetti westerns on there.
Oh yeah. We're all gonna sit there and watch Duck You Sucker for 16 hours.
I do miss Alitalia. Beautiful livery when applied to rally cars as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Also, it was a livery that hadn't been changed in 40 years, which notably is the secret to not having a good livery these days.
Yep. Put it on the Lancia Stratos, and perfect.
So after they bought it for the one plane, which was the McDonnell Douglas MD-11, which is the relevant plane type for this entire episode, but for here specifically. They bought it explicitly as a test, and that they would expand it to other planes in their fleet if they decided it worked good enough. Alitalia did not buy it for any more aircraft based on the documentation I have seen.
Just like we tested it, we found it to be shit.
Yes.
Wasn't good enough. I couldn't see, the orgy as clearly as I wanted to.
By 1995, IFT had relocated to Phoenix, Arizona. Went back to the drawing board.
What if it's the opposite? What if Alitalia was like screening Salo not because they're absolute freaks, but because they're like absolute like cinema nerds, and they were screening like, I don't know, 8.5 or like L'Avventura or something, and they're like, well, this fucking sucks. I'm not like moved to like crying. I'm not moved to tears by the beauty of this artistic achievement at all. I can hardly see the fucking thing. I'm switching over to the map instead of this. This is an insult to Italian cinema.
Exactly.
That's a good point there.
I miss when there was a big screen at the front of the plane. Obviously what they need to do is constantly fly at a lower pitch so you have cinema seating so you can see the big screen at the front of the plane.
One big vomit comet.
I mean, one thing that I was going to say about British Airways earlier is that I kind of miss airline nationalism, in the sense that, like, you remember how when you were a little kid and you went to the airport and you were like, oh my god, there's people from all over the world, there's planes from all over the world, everywhere has a culture and they're all wonderful, you know? And you're like, that's the Alitalia plane. I don't know why everybody's crying, but like that's the Alitalia plane. It's like white, green, and red. It looks beautiful. It's like emblematic, right? And then you fly a different airline and you're like, oh fuck, I'm experiencing the culture of Tajikistan because they're giving me like Tajik food. And now they kind of don't really do that. You get the same food and you get the same movies just off of a kind of Netflix thing. And it's like, I want to take Air France and I want them to start showing me Godard movies, you know?
No, you go on British Airways and there's no movies. There's just a selection of Adrian Childs articles.
Yeah. No, what it is it's Love Island.
Wow, yeah.
My wife is currently watching Love Island, which makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Saluting. You're welcome for our cultural exports.
Show.
Yeah.
Airline food edition.
We never really.
The judges on Great British Baking Show a pervert.
They're all gross. What you got to watch is the Great Australian Bake Off, which is now going to be hosted by a friend of the show, Tom Walker.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh
yeah.
Shit.
No, he's got to drive a car 900 miles an hour into there.
Gonna have to put that as the second entry on cooking shows I actually want to watch.
Yeah.
Yes.
To live there with Iron Chef, which will be there until the end of time.
This is a salutary lesson for all of us. If you drive yourself insane for long enough on the internet, eventually you will land a lucrative job.
Oh my god, fuck when? I'm waiting for so long. I'm so poor and I don't have the lucrative insane internet job yet. Once IFT started designing the second generation of the system, which they did after relocating to Phoenix, they started building it around a standard Intel-based computer that ran Microsoft Windows NT Server, which did kind of vastly expand the capabilities that they could do because they were installing a whole Intel-based computer under every seat in the aircraft.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, now the main problem with running like standard computer silicon in an embedded application like that is that, of course, computers tend to get quite warm. Yes.
You're doing the Liam's room kind of temperature gradient.
I'm dying out here.
I'm actually also doing my living room temperature gradient right now, to be fair.
Look, if you have to run the heating in winter, you don't own enough computers.
That's right, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll never betray me, will you? 3080 exhaust. No, you won't.
And the fan noise blends right into the engine noise.
This is true.
Corinne told me, she's like, I actually find the server hum really soothing. And I was like, yeah, I bet you do. We all float down here, baby.
As far as I have read, I think that the thing about the server fans blending in with the engine noise was actually a part of their calculus. So
amazing.
Yeah. So
that bleed air just goes straight through once through cooling.
So all of these machines ran very hot, and it was something that IFT knew about, but determined it was not actually that detrimental to operation because it didn't affect the main server, which was a much less compact unit that was integrated into the internal wiring harnesses of the aircraft.
Yeah, we took out one of the toilets to put in like a filing cabinet sized server, and that's what pulls Hope floats.
Well, every airliner basically has one of these. It's just under the cockpit. If you've never seen a picture of one, it's very interesting. It's just a bunch of avionics gear that looks like server gear in like regular ass racks. It's crazy shit. At least on modern planes. Obviously, we built a lot of computers into these things nowadays.
I put this shit in a 727, and it's like just a closet with servers haphazardly thrown in there.
Yeah.
Like
the
my hard
toilet's still
drives.
there, the sink is still there.
God, Jesus Christ.
I will. To be clear, I have a 3D printer right here. If you need hard drive adapters, I will gladly.
They are seated in trays. They're just not like secured into those trays.
I'm so mad at you.
I understand.
It's press fit. It's fine.
Toolless, but by accident.
The holes on the trays don't marry up with the screw holes on the hard drives.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. I'm doing fucking Steam logic puzzles here to try and match them up, and they don't match up. Listen, when I'm gonna get evicted in like 3 months' time. I'm gonna have to move house, and I'm gonna have to pick up this computer and move it again. Right? So like, I don't know. There's a decent chance this ends with the podcast buying a new computer.
Yeah, don't worry. Throw it on the credit card. We got it.
Yeah.
I understand both sides of this because I have the 3D printer that can do hard drive backups, but also like next to me is a laptop that is just that the hard drive is literally floating around inside of. So like I get both sides of this argument. Granted, this is 20 years old, so a bit of a different scenario. But
What if we secured it in some kind of like jelly situation, like an aspic?
This is some embedded hardware actually does this, like not like aspic, but
It's just floating around in like honey.
It's like one of those mineral oil PCs.
Like a D&D like slime. It's just in there.
So they decided that the seat units running hot wasn't a problem because, of course, they didn't get hot enough to cause a problem, at least as far as they could tell, and it didn't affect the main server. So
and it's only under every seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they finished developing this and made it deployable, and they called it the In-Flight Entertainment Network. Since this was the second generation, the whole system was called IFEN-2.
Oh, really rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, catchy.
Yes. What you're looking at right now is a picture of the configuration they gave to Swissair. You'll notice the films thing, and they have the nice touchscreens where you can select between different languages on a film. You can watch LA Confidential in French, which would make it an even more interesting film.
Rollo Tomasi. C'est vous. I have some thoughts about Swissair that I'll get into later.
Sure.
Makes sense for the multi-language thing, I guess, because otherwise you would have riots. You gotta have French and German at least on there.
None of these films are in Romansh.
Yeah, this is bullshit. Swiss Federal Council, please bankrupt Swissair. Oh wait.
That was a good one.
I'm still mad about that. I'll be mad about that for a long time. We'll get into it. What the fuck is a Swiss International Airlines? I'll kill you.
So IFT would eventually get lucky and would sign a memorandum of understanding with the national flag carrier of Switzerland, Swissair.
Oh, that's what it says on the tin.
Yes. May 1st, 1996, outlining a deal to install the system on 16 McDonnell Douglas MD-11s and 5 Boeing 747s. And would involve a bizarre revenue and cost sharing model that I did not really understand, involving IFT paying to maintain the system on some planes and paying for some others. Not really that relevant. It was just fucking weird.
Mm-hmm. Average airline financing for anything.
Yeah, that's about right, actually. IFEN-2 notably had a killer feature that the original system did not have. That being, go to the next slide, please.
Gambling.
Yes.
Gambling.
IFT designed a system that had 3 games, Keno, slots, and something called Risco, a game that I can't actually find any details of. It's presumably not the board game, which is based off of Risk, which would be fun to gamble on.
No, that'd be pretty fun. I think they should
I'd love to gamble on Risk.
Yeah, no, that'd be pretty good. I mean, if you made that skill-based, I mean, so much of gambling just isn't what it used to be anymore, these days. Yeah. You just start gambling on board games. Can we do like professional board games?
No gambling on Shadow Doge.
Yeah.
The IFT themselves would run the gambling services. The financial side of things would be handled by the Swiss Lottery, which makes this a multinational partnership, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You would swipe your credit card, and you would be allowed to spend up to $200 and win up to $3,500, which would be paid out.
Hell yeah! It seems like that's a no-brainer, baby.
What happens if I spend up to $200 before I win $3,500?
That is a good question. I assume the answer is fuck you.
Yeah, Swissair takes your money.
Yeah.
Excuse me, stewardess. I didn't win my $3,500. There's something wrong with the system.
The gambling system, or the Federal Aviation Administration approved IFT as overseeing the gambling operation, which, as far as I could tell, legally made them in the same class as a casino.
Thank you.
Which is interesting.
They are based out of Vegas, right?
No, they're based out of Phoenix at this point, which is an even worse place to be.
Phoenix casinos.
Yes. So all the gambling was paid out by the Swiss National Lottery, but all the infrastructure was running out of Phoenix. It's a very strange setup. But they advertise gambling as the revenue driver, especially for those in business and first class.
Yeah, I mean, first class flyers absolutely have that kind of money to burn and are stupid.
Yes.
So yeah,
No, that's the shit that like high rollers like is slot machines. They don't like the things where they're sitting at a table and doing like
I want to play Baccarat.
bunch of card
James
bullshit.
Bond shit. Yeah.
No. That's what real James Bond would go straight for the slot machine and just keep pulling the lever. Yeah.
Yes. You can play slots on this. It's what's going on the bottom right there, but it appears to be a bizarre nautical themed slots with fish. Swissair had actually agreed to install it on all 3 of the classes, first, business, and coach. But the gambling was like they can fleece first and business class travelers. Something fierce here. Okay, so the part about it being installed in 3 classes is relevant for the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Ooh, diagrams.
Yes. The system was actually originally designed for the first and business class cabins, and was designed to run on the same power distribution unit as the cabin, which is normal for how in-flight entertainment systems work for presumably obvious reasons. It's in the cabin.
Yeah.
Yes.
This meant that it would be powered by the electrical system called the cabin bus.
All caps.
Yes, that I just writing down what it says in the official reports and in the cockpit. I don't really know why it's all caps. Would have a match.
It's important.
Yes.
When you read it, you have to shout it.
Cabin bus.
Cabin bus.
Do it with an air of wonder. The cabin bus.
Yes.
Cabin bus.
You would have a matching cabin bus breaker that would be labeled as such in the cockpit. And pulling said breaker would, in an emergency, kill all power to everything in the cabin minus essential systems. This was obviously considered essential and was on a fair amount of emergency checklists from both Swissair and McDonnell Douglas themselves, including the one for, quote, smoke from unknown origin, close quote.
Oh, don't like that.
You
I
smoke
want my
in
smoke
the toilet.
on the airplane to be from a cigarette, right?
And somebody
exactly.
and shuts off all the gambling. It's like, God fucking damn it.
Yes. As
Stewardess,
Swissair,
where's my $3,500?
As Swissair had requested that they install it on every seat on the aircraft, IFT found that the cabin power distribution would not have enough power to drive the entertainment system. The decision to install it in the coach cabin called for an entire second equipment rack in the forward main cabin. Basically, the big server unit, they were going to put 2 of them in there at the same time. That's what the diagram shows. You can see the first rack there towards the forward of the aircraft, and the second rack there towards sort of center of the aircraft.
I see.
This is all this is all from investigative reports afterwards. Jesus, excuse me.
All this just to facilitate slot machines.
Yeah, that's essentially the case.
Yes.
And
so Riscio.
Yeah.
Seco.
Risico, excuse me.
I think. The decision was made to wire directly into the second of the aircraft's 2 AC electrical distribution systems, meaning it was isolated from any and all cabin safety measures, although it could theoretically still safely be shut down in an emergency as long as the essential AC bus remained online.
Oh, okay. So you just wire it in anywhere, basically.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, it looks good. Guys, just splice it in there. It's fine. It's good.
Yeah, going down the checklist, and it's like, what is it? What do you mean shut down half the slot machines?
Yeah, it's circuit breaker controls the right engine and the gambling.
Oh, that's tricky wiring. That is.
Yeah. The Federal Aviation Administration, who was overseeing this because IFT was an American company and McDonnell Douglas was an American company, despite Swissair being a European carrier, would approve installing the system like this in one single aircraft, meaning that they were legally allowed to install it on other MD-11s as long as they were configured identically and the systems were installed identically to one another. This was mainly as a testing feature, although as far as I could aware, they just kind of ran with it.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good to me.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
Right until we go.
They don't like that saying at the FAA, I understand.
No.
The FAA would also approve this, despite the decision to use a different, less flame retardant mylar material compared to the rest of the aircraft's wiring systems.
It's a long USB cord. It's fine.
Yes.
I don't
despite-
have USB yet. This is like fucking SCSI or some shit.
So 1997, USB existed. It was just the slowest, the
USB
absolute
1?
slowest server. Yeah. Yep. And Windows didn't support it yet, but that
Jesus.
Windows still doesn't really support it.
It's FireWire.
That actually didn't exist yet.
Firewire 800. Yeah, that's how we're fucking doing this.
That would rule, actually. I have so many FireWire cables right next to me. So, despite using what essentially amounted to two separate systems, they decided to wire both of them into AC bus 2, despite the fact that they could have wired one of them into the cabin bus as originally planned, which would have been more complex, but would have been easier to shut it down.
Oh, okay, so now you can't shut down the slot machines.
Fail safe slot machines. Dead man switch, but only for slot machines.
Wings fallen off, engines fallen off, stabilizers gone, slot machines still going.
Operational.
Yeah,
It's like the titanium bathtub, but they're titanium slot machines.
This is
The flight data recorder and slot machine payout box.
Yeah. The pilot has like a lever in the cockpit to increase or decrease the odds on the slot machines.
I'm sorry that your loved one was killed. However, we recovered the cockpit data recorder and we found that they were screaming a lot, but they are entitled to about $100 worth of credit card refunds from slots.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, actually, the payout goes directly to the pilot, so there were chips flying around the cabin.
There's a pneumatic tube full of chips.
Yeah.
So they went ahead with installing this on all the aircraft they had originally agreed to. The first unit was installed in an MD-11 in January 1997, with the plan to be to install the system in 1 to 2 planes per month up through February 1998. Depending on maintenance schedules, they weren't going to bother unless it was in the hangar for something else, obviously. Swissair, the Swiss Lottery, and IFT were contractually obligated to service the system until December 31st, 2003. Swissair, after introducing the system to public fanfare in January 1997 with a ton of press photos, some of which I've already used several times, would consider it a success, although for reasons I can't really figure out, they would disable it in the coach cabin by April 1997, meaning the entire power distribution issue was entirely moot, and they could have switched back. Switched back.
We're not making any money off these people, but we got to keep the sort of like wiring architecture to do it.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yes, which I can see the justification for not rewiring the plane, if not for everything that's about to happen. Next slide. This is another one of them press photos I just talked about. Because I just need to talk about the system for a minute. Swissair would get a.
Oh, I could get info.
You could.
Oh, and chance.
Chance.
That's the gambling.
I really like air show. That's my favorite.
The map.
I know it's a map, Mario.
So they have chance, but where's community chest?
Oh, it's in your ass, Roz. My favorite.
What?
It's in your ass. It's in your butt.
Okay.
I have a fun aside about that since we were on tour.
What did you do to my ass?
Nothing. An ass side, if you will. I was talking to Jay when we were setting up for Philly for the Fillmore, and he's like, "Oh, do you have this cable?" And I think it's probably in your. And I'm about to say, I think it's probably in your butt. And Jay cuts me off because I've been making this joke 6 nights in a row. And goes, "I swear to God, if you say it's in my ass, I'll fuck you up." I've never seen the man like break composure like this, or like I think it's just like shut the fuck up. And I was like, "Oh, he's broken composure. I've done it." The joke is so annoying.
You're declaring victory at that moment. Yeah.
I want to go to what do you think they got behind the paid film paywall?
I was gonna ask that. Yeah, what's
Solo.
one of the free films here?
Solo again.
I didn't notice this when I was putting it together. I have to wonder what the free films were, and if it was just the safety video.
And you have to pay for it with a MasterCard as well.
Also,
train arriving at the station. What else? Maybe some Buster Keaton.
That's not a bad deal. I'd watch some Buster Keaton.
That'd actually be pretty good. That's probably behind the paywall, actually.
They didn't even have the term paywall yet. That's how like primitive they were.
So back then you had to put a MasterCard logo on there.
Yeah.
To let them know, no Visa, no American Express, only MasterCard.
Sometimes I wonder if I've fallen off, and then I feel then I remember that American Express exists, and I feel a lot better.
That's a good point there. Yeah.
They don't even deliver stuff anymore. What the fuck?
American Unhurried.
Yeah.
So American Express and Western Union, two of the biggest crash outs of, I was going to say our time, but that's a much different time.
Yeah.
Look, Western Union is still going somehow. I don't know what people use it for.
Remittances, genuinely.
Yeah, I was going to say they use it for
Yeah.
money transfer. They used to use it for money transfer to get scammed, but that's now they just use cryptocurrency. For
Yeah, no. Western Union is like propping up the economy of a bunch of like poorer countries.
This is actually true. So is MoneyGram is as well for the same reason. Yeah.
Mhm.
So sorry, hang on. Where was I? That's right. I had one drink. I shouldn't be this out of it. So Swissair got a fair bit of positive industry press. Passengers liked it a lot, although the features would not be as thrilling as expected. In March of 1997, Swissair told the Securities and Exchange Commission that a total of 50 people had gambled up to the $200 limit.
50 Swiss whales.
Those high rollers, as I said,
Yeah.
they love the slots. They don't want that kind of in-person interaction where they can intimidate their fellow high rollers at like a a poker table or like a blackjack table. No, they just want to pull the lever.
I'm not turning down $10,000. Like, that's not bad.
It was $2,600, I believe.
No, all those people won $3,500. That's
yeah.
Shit.
you know what they say: the passenger always wins.
By the middle of 1997, Alitalia would take a second stab at it because they were really committed to showing this one film. They would install it in 5 MD-11s as a second test. They would also sign some sort of agreement with Debonair from the UK and Qantas from Australia. I don't think either one of those happened, as far as I can tell. I think both IFT and Debonair ran out of money before they could even really try.
I've never even heard of Debonair, so like...
It's Devon's...
Yeah, Devon.
Devon's airline.
Devon's airline.
Yeah, Devon's airline. Yeah, Devon Air. Yeah.
Devon Air.
They were they flew out of London Luton. So
that's weird. Yeah, okay. I think EasyJet started doing that, so not as weird as it sounds, but yeah.
I mean, for 1996. Oh, they existed for 4 years. Okay, that's nice.
Well done.
For 1996, that would be revolutionary because, of course, every low-cost carrier hadn't realized that people will pay to get screwed in every fashion.
Yeah,
like we have nowadays. Have the Spirit and the Frontier Airlines of Europe here. Anyway, Swissair themselves would have some financial difficulties, not the bigger ones later.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but not yet. So combining that with some technical difficulties, the system had only been installed on 6 planes by 1998. At some point in the later half of 1997, Swissair had complained that the individual systems under the seats were getting so hot that the hard drives were dying.
Oh, it's like Nova's computer.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's just a bunch of loose hard drives under every seat, right? You know, when someone like stows their bag underneath the seat in front of them and like fucks up all the hard drives.
Hate to say it.
IFT blamed the company that supplied the hard drives. I can't find out who that is, but if you know some of the companies that were making hard drives at the time,
it's IBM. It's IBM.
Pretty short list.
I could in fact believe that IBM was making drives that exploded like that, but I would also be tempted to blame both sides here.
And this is like, you know, this is before we had solid state drives, so you know it's like a platter, you know, and it's like a fucking disc that just explodes.
After those two problems, Swissair didn't have any other major issues. That was really it up until you'll go to the next slide.
This is gorgeous.
Yes.
This is the bit where I get to talk about Swissair. So like
yeah.
I'm sort of I'm adjacent to this one, right? So like this may set off a spasm of people trying to like investigate me for like podcast nepotism. My dad lived in Switzerland for a long time when I was growing up. And so basically, because my parents were divorced and they had like shared custody, I would like fly out regularly. I would like commute as a kid on a Swissair plane between London and Geneva. This is the least relatable story I have ever told.
It sounds nice though.
It was really nice. Like I was flying on my own, which meant that like if you're a kid doing that, the stewardesses make a huge fuss of you. You were allowed to go into the cockpit because they didn't know that kids could do 9/11 yet because Zoran Mandani hadn't been elected yet.
Or Roz,
And
I'm allowed to. It's not even illegal.
So like every time I got off one of these planes, I would have like a little set of like pilot's wings and a little tiny model of the plane and a little like gift bag.
Oh my God.
And like a 1% more thing and a 1% more wire in my brain between older women being nice to me and me feeling a bunch of strange feelings. So
did the pilot ever ask you about
gladiator movies? Weirdly, I never got sexually harassed as a kid on a Swissair flight, but I did get sexually harassed as a kid the first time I went to Utah. So just to derive from that what you
tracks.
will.
I mean, that makes sense. That does track.
Yeah. But so, I used to fly on these all the time. At a time contemporaneous was when we're talking about. I remember these planes. I feel very fondly towards them. I think the livery is beautiful. And again, it was a time of like strong brand identity that was based around, I don't know. I didn't know what the fuck Swissness was, despite spending half my time there. But I was like, Switzerland is when a lot of extremely beautiful women are very solicitous and very nice to you.
Yes.
And I kind of still believe that today.
See,
Nova, you ever hang around a gymnasium?
See, now I'm actually jealous because I was born in a time and did not fly for the first time until well after 9/11. So of course the cockpit was a foreign land where people were not allowed to be. Also, I phrased that wrong. I was not born after 9/11. Jesus Christ. Not giving myself enough credit here.
It's people who are born after 9/11 are adults now. It's crazy.
Presumably some of them.
They will never know that it used to be you could just go to the airport terminal and hang around and watch the airplanes.
Yeah, we used to be a proper country.
You could do that in Seattle, but you still have to go through TSA, which why would you do that?
I think you could do that in Philly now too, but you also still have to go through TSA.
You used to be able to do it in Pittsburgh, and then they started ruining the terminal by building a new one.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, they're getting rid of the good postmodern terminal and replacing with some bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are seats behind me that are from the Pittsburgh airport terminal. I am very mad about what they are doing to my airport. Anyways, the thing about airline nationalism is also weird because we never had a flag carrier in the U.S. We just had like Pan Am we just had like Pan Am as a sign of global dominance. But like, I think at the time in like the mid-century, the sign of American dominance was the fact that we built the planes, which we don't do anymore.
Yeah, nah, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Pan Am got subsumed into, of all things, CSX.
It's true, yeah.
The Chicken Shit Express, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a weird travel agency that paid Iceland Air to put a Pan Am livery on one of their planes so they can charter it as like a retro future type thing.
Oh, okay.
Which is fucking crazy. It's like $100,000 a ticket for a global itinerary.
The people yearn for the brands. They want the old brand identities
they want the
back.
Brands.
They do, except they do. Except
I want
they did a very
Swissair back, you sons of bitches! Right? Like,
I demand the brands.
Demand brand.
The travel agency that's running this also did it on the cheap, so it's not a real version of the Pan Am livery, and it's also on a 757, which they're going to take on around the world, which is a fascinating choice.
That is interesting. Yeah.
I want Swissair back. I want to return with a V. I want to be too young to experience gender dysphoria yet, and have a bunch of very beautiful women be nice to me.
That's true. I'm jealous of the cockpit thing, but I understand the yearning for the older women. That part I get.
Yeah.
Anyways, on the topic here. The aircraft we are looking at right now is in McDonnell Douglas MD-11, built in 1991. It is registered HB-IWF. It is named, I believe that's pronounced VOD. I don't know.
It's Vaud. Vaud is the canton immediately north of Geneva.
Yes.
It's where Lausanne is. It's where Montreux is. It's very, very pretty.
Yes.
It's like the whole kind of
Vaud.
north shore of Lake Geneva.
Yeah,
that's where smoke on the water occurred.
It is where smoke on the water occurred. It's also got a cool flag. If you're into Swiss cantonal flags, and why shouldn't you be?
Yeah, and we're all here for vexology.
I meant to look up how that was pronounced before I came here today, and then I didn't. So it shows what I know.
It's all good. Canton Vaud.
The system, or the IFEN-2 system, was built into this aircraft between the 21st of August and the 9th of September 1997. There were some part problems that wouldn't actually get done until February of 1998. Vaud would be assigned to fly Swissair Flight 111 between John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York and Geneva Airport in Geneva on September 2nd, 1998.
Oh boy.
Swissair 111 was sometimes called the UN Express due to its route and the fact that it took off after the workday ended in New York.
Yeah, people don't necessarily know this about Geneva, but it's kind of a company town for the UN and NGOs more generally. And so if you spend a lot of time in Geneva, and as an English speaker, right, you're mostly around UN people, Red Cross people, etc., and their kids. And it's weird. It's a weird vibe. It's a weird little company town, but it's cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, all the bulk of the UN bureaucracy is in Geneva. New York is just where the important stuff, the stuff that all the support functions are supporting, is in New York.
Yes, it's where they won't be able to send Netanyahu now that we have Zoran.
Now we have Zoran.
That's right.
Yeah. That will be a very interesting turn of events whenever it undoubtedly happens. Anyways, on September 2nd, 1998. Swissair 111 would take off from John F. Kennedy International Airport at 8:18 Eastern Daylight Time. 28 minutes late. 28 minutes after its scheduled departure.
Had to replace a bunch of hard drives because people were gambling too much.
It's probably about fair,
yeah. All the 2 people in first class who were pulling the lever because that's the highest class form of gambling.
Yeah, that's right.
with the UN credit card, presumably.
Yeah.
You're gambling UN money.
That's got to feel good as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In command of the aircraft was...
All right, put it all on a Hutus. Let's go.
In command of the aircraft was Captain, I don't know how that's pronounced, I'm going to go with Urs Zimmerman.
Yeah, pretty...
It's URS? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Good enough. A 49-year-old Swiss Air Force veteran whose birthday was September 3rd.
Being a Swiss Air Force veteran is really funny to me because it's like, yeah, cool, you flew, I presume, fast jets over a country that a fast jet crosses in about 10 minutes.
So the coolest thing I ever saw was in Switzerland. A family was staying in we were staying in a rented chalet.
Nice.
God, I wish
down
that would be.
down the road is a whatchamacallit, a sort of a hotel there where I had one of the best bologneses I've had in my life, like a spaghetti bolognese, right? But they had a back deck, and at the other side of the back deck was a cliff, and the cliff went down, several thousand feet. This was this was in the village of Hoflu, which is just near Meiringen, which is I forget what the canton is. And you could, when I was there, you could look over the side of the railing. You could see the Swiss Air Force doing maneuvers below you.
Damn,
you were looking down on the planes.
Mach loop. Yeah. Meiringen is in Bern, by the way, just if you're curious.
I had a
no, it's not. Is that? Oh, is the whole thing the canton of Bern?
So there's 2 cantons. There's Bernstadt and another one. Just like Bern, canton, right? So it's 2, the city and the thing.
Oh, I see. I was thinking of because it took a long time to get the Bern from there. Well, not that long of a time because the trains are very good.
Wait, no, I'm stupid. I'm confusing Basel and Bern.
Wow.
But yeah, it is in Bern.
Gotcha. Okay. What was the other thing about that trip that was relevant? I forget. Shit. That not.
I mean, I can keep throwing Swiss facts in. I had the freshest, nicest glass of milk in my life that I've ever had in a hotel in Lausanne.
Had a very, very, very positive experiences in Switzerland. Yeah.
Well, I think it's really funny for the arc of this podcast to be glazing Switzerland. Like, not that they don't deserve it, but like,
it's quite ideologically interesting. Yes.
Yes. It's like, we could all just move there and be neutral. Politics are over. The only problem is we'd all have to get together in a big town meeting, and Nova wouldn't be able to vote.
It's fine. I'm not using it. It's fine. But yeah, so the Swiss Air Force, really, really cool. They used to fly BF-109s, which are the only BF-109s you're allowed to acceptably think are cool because they're not Nazis. They're just neutral. They used to fly FA-18s as well. And the only other thing I know about the Swiss Air Force is that in terms of like air defense and air interception, they keep office hours, which I think is one of the funniest things because it's such a small country. They will like intercept aircraft over Switzerland Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Out with that, it's France and Germany's problem.
That makes sense. This conversation is very funny to me. Who's never been anywhere particularly near the European continent.
You should. It's good. They got good milk.
I got two very conflicting arguments there in both ears.
Wow, nice milk, nice cheese.
Nazis.
Nazism, yeah.
Good chocolate as well. Music boxes.
Good chocolate.
The watches are pretty good.
Yeah, we can all
trains are pretty good.
Oh, Switzerland live show, but just at a watch shop.
I would be thrilled to do a
Switzerland live show.
I would also go to the watch live show, even though every watch I wear is a Casio right now.
So we're gonna do it on the bridge in Lucerne.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, we have to do it at the Transport Museum, but we need to meet Swiss Gareth Dennis first.
Oh, I love that.
We do it in Montreux, as soon as the jazz festival clears out, we do it in Montreux on the lakefront and then just make sure the venue catches fire.
Yeah, we shouldn't tell them that first.
No. It'll be a surprise.
Second in command on board this aircraft was First Officer Stefan Lowe, I believe. This time I actually went and looked it up during that last diversion. And I might still be wrong, but that's what Google Translate told me, so I can blame them. Mm-hmm. He was a 36-year-old with relatively low hours in commercial aviation, but was also a Swiss Air Force veteran.
These two guys have both flown FA-18s in circles over the same Alp together.
Yes.
Yes.
They can only turn left.
Also on board the flight were 11 flight attendants and 1 purser, bringing the total crew to 14, alongside 215 passengers, meaning we had a total of 229 people on board this aircraft. This was not a full flight. It was about 72% of revenue passenger seats occupied.
Imagine being able to sit and gamble on not a full flight and you can still smoke.
The dream.
The dream.
Yeah. You're going from New York to Geneva. It's fantastic.
Unfortunately, you're probably not going to New Geneva, as we're going to get into.
No, you're going into it. Yeah.
You're not going to space today.
Yes. I mean, there's going to be a lot of smoke involved. It's just not coming from the cigarette that you're holding in first class. In any case. About 15 minutes after takeoff, the aircraft would experience a radio blackout for 14 minutes. This was just kind of determined to be a crew error that did not represent any sort of functional issues with the aircraft. They had just tuned the radio wrong, but it was mentioned in the official report, so I felt like I had to put it here.
It's like idiots.
They got the old-fashioned tuner with like the physical thing that went back and forth. Like, hold on, I think I can get Limbaugh.
My dad and your dad just agreeing and disagreeing, but howling at each other over the Swissair. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Oh, if my dad and your dad were pilot and the first officer.
Oh yeah, you guys ever seen a fist fight on a plane?
At 10:10 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time.
Oh, no.
I've been there.
So 58 minutes after takeoff, while flying over the south coast of Nova Scotia, Captain Zimmerman detects the distinct smell of smoke. But a visual inspection did not confirm the presence of smoke. Cockpit crew initially dismissed it as normal smoke from the air conditioning system being configured incorrectly, which happens sometimes on these older MD-11s, and the smell went away after a brief moment.
I mean, there's a lot of like weird bad smells you can get on planes.
Yes.
Like, yeah,
because like all the air that's coming in, you're getting from the bleed air system, so it goes through the engine.
Yes,
and this is like just one of those things that happens on airplanes. Sometimes it inhales a bunch of air that happens to have smoke in it. But the other thing which is interesting about this one is this is back before the cockpit door had to be locked.
Yes,
back then you could just walk in.
It was also before cockpit crews were banned from smoking up there, notably. So, not that was a factor, but it's probably something worth considering in terms of the idle smell of smoke someplace.
All right, you should probably be allowed to smoke. Sometimes it's a really stressful situation.
Or dip or something.
Yeah. It's like I just saw the movie Flight, and the thesis of the movie Flight is that drinking makes you a bad pilot, but cocaine kind of cancels it out.
Yeah, speedball. Yeah, no,
exactly.
But I believe that China only banned smoking for the cockpit crews in 2017.
Amazing. But they have way better cigarettes there. Like the packaging's way cooler.
You imagine like the Chinese cigarettes are probably good for you.
Yeah,
they probably have that now.
We smoking the Chonghuas aboard the Comac built aircraft, except they actually hadn't built any of those in 2017, so never mind.
Hi, it's Justin. So this is a commercial for the podcast that you're already listening to. People are annoyed by these, so let me get to the point. We have this thing called Patreon, right? The deal is you give us $2 a month, and we give you an extra episode once a month. Sometimes it's a little inconsistent, but it's $2. You get what you pay for. It also gets you our full back catalog of bonus episodes, so you can learn about exciting topics like guns, pickup trucks, or pickup trucks with guns on them. The money we raise through Patreon goes to making sure that the only ad you hear on this podcast is this one. Anyway, that's something to consider if you have $2 to spare each month. Join at patreon.com/WTYP pod. Do it if you want. Or don't. It's your decision, and we respect that. Back to the show.
If you'll go to the next slide, please. There's a few pictures on this one.
Oh, these are the two most Swiss-looking men I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. These guys have done some stuff. Yeah.
These images conjure up like fondue and Rushdie to me. Like these are, sure.
Yeah, this is actually the only reason I included the pictures, because they look to be the most European men alive.
Mm-hmm.
On the left is Captain.
Sorry.
That's a good point. Should have chosen better words there.
With the bleakness in our own ways here.
This guy could be like a really good cop in an 80s movie.
Oh yeah. Well, but they both could is the thing.
Actually,
right?
though,
buddy cop movie.
Yeah, no, we need to get these folks on film. I mean, they're dead, but we really need to get them on film.
He's got if you got rid of the mustache, he's got like a Phil Collins thing going on almost.
That's
which is
true. Yeah, they don't make guys who are bald this way anymore.
Oh yeah.
For which I'm desperately glad, but like.
Everyone's gotten ashamed of it.
He's got the Dracula flow. It's crazy.
Yeah, actually, I was going to point out the widow's peak there. That's impressive. The guy whose hair the dead guy whose hair we're making fun of on the left, that's his Captain Zimmerman. On the right is First Officer Lowe.
I don't know that it's right to say that we're doing it on the left. Just because we're a leftist podcast doesn't mean that it's got like a class character to it.
Yeah. Look, pilots are in unions. They're workers.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
4 minutes later, at 10:14 p.m., smoke smell comes back, and this time actual visual smoke that comes alongside it. Captain Zimmerman declares a pan situation, which indicates extreme urgency, but not necessarily an emergency, which is not the sort of thing you typically do whenever there's smoke in the cockpit, but never mind. He also requests that the plane be vectored to return to, quote, a convenient place, which is what the transcript says,
Right.
immediately deciding that Boston was the best option, Boston being 270 miles away. Not really sure what the thought process was there.
All right, the plane goes pretty fast. It's probably fine. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Moncton Center, that would be Moncton in Canada.
Don't go there. Never fucking go there.
That town. Yeah.
Ruined our lives.
It's like New Jersey, but somehow hotter and much worse.
It was 101 degrees there.
It was 101 when we were in Moncton. Yeah.
God.
Horrible. Moncton responds by saying that they can vector them to Boston, but they could also do it to Halifax, which is 76 miles away as opposed to 270. The Swissair crew responds with the quote, we prefer Halifax from our position, which is interesting passive language. I'm not really sure what caused that.
Bunch of smoke inhalation.
Well, yes, because at this point they also put on the big oxygen mask they have for the cockpit crew.
Well, the captain had to think for a moment, and he's like, okay, I need to go somewhere where I can slide over the hood of a police cruiser.
Yeah, I want to play like Dukes of Hazzard in here, right? Yeah.
Boston made a lot of sense, but like then he realized, no, Halifax is probably also using Ford Crown Victorias at this point. So
that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
10:19, the Halifax controller starts lining them up for the runway there. Tells them that they are 35 miles from the runway, which is just a couple minutes of flying time, give or take. Which is, this is the good place. You want to be 2 minutes from the runway if your plane is actively smoking at you from an unknown source.
The plane being on fire is very, very bad because there's not much you can do.
Yes, generally true. This is the big through line through any time you look at a plane that's been on fire. That does tend to happen.
The shit that killed Stan Rogers?
Oh God!
Yes,
we'll get to that. That's an episode.
I was going to mention that as my example, but interestingly, that didn't really catch fire super hard till they were on the ground. So they opened the door and all the oxygen made everything explode. Anyway, the Swissair crew responds by saying they're too high, which is kind of reasonable. Halifax responds by vectoring them via a longer approach to give them a few more minutes to actually get the plane closer to the ground. At 10:21.
As if some folks are not like super familiar with the dynamics of an airliner, it is difficult to go down fast sometimes.
Yes. Unless you want to really, unless you want to kill everybody. Like,
yeah, it's pretty bad if you're approaching the runway and you're going 400 miles an hour.
That's bad.
You want to avoid that situation.
Yeah.
The brakes don't work good. The brakes are good. They're not that good.
10:21 through 2 minutes later, Halifax asks them the amount of fuel and the number of souls they have on board the aircraft. They always use the term souls in aircraft accident reports. I've never quite understood it. Just bizarre.
I just assumed it to be a convenient way of including everybody who's on board.
Yeah. Oh, it seems, I don't want to say it sounds weirdly religious, but like it sounds a little bit weirdly religious.
It is weirdly religious. I think it's probably a nautical holdover as much as anything.
Oh, that's a good point there, yeah.
It's also like if you need something that encompasses crew, passengers, and miscellaneous,
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Well, it's going to be difficult if you're carrying a lot of like philosophical zombies.
Oh, that's not going to make weight. That's a shame.
Say your number of souls. Well, like observed or
yeah.
Also, of course,
we have to have a debate about this now.
Also, of course, people that sold their souls to the Swiss National Lottery at one point or another could theoretically pose some sort of problem here.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah, gotta check some people off the list. Nope. They spent their $200.
So wait a second. We got some people who work at the World Intellectual Property Organization on here.
Stewardess.
Swissair crew responds to that with the realization that, we probably have a little bit too much fuel to guarantee a safe landing, and asked to be taken out over a body of water to dump the fuel. At 10:22, 1 minute later, They turn to the south, now flying away from the airport, but still within 45 minutes of the runway.
I don't want a Monday morning quarterback on my Monday morning quarterbacking podcast, but the kind of decision making here and the kind of forward thinking or lack thereof, this feels lurching from one thing to the next, which I understand they are busy and also presumably terrified, but
it's been 6 minutes.
Yeah,
it has been a total of 6 minutes. Yes. The short duration of this is pretty fucking difficult for me to cope with when I had to put this slideshow together. At the same time the captain was having this conversation, the first officer was working through the checklist for smoke/fumes of unknown origin. Pictured here on the right is a different smoke checklist from the Swissair emergency checklist. This is for air conditioning smoke. It is basically of the same thing. As a matter of fact, this is the first thing you're supposed to do if there's smoke of unknown origin. You'll notice down at the bottom it says refer to emergency procedure, smoke/fumes of unknown origin if smoke is not of air conditioning origin. This checklist is relatively important. Excuse me, because of course
you'd hope so.
Yes. This is, I believe, something like 90% of piloting is working through checklists, and that includes in this situation. And indeed, as a result of reading through the checklist, sometime between 10:22 and 10:24, crew cut power to the cabin bus in accordance with the checklist, which would ideally have cut off continued flow of electricity to a fire in the cabin systems. However, of course, as previously mentioned, the in-flight entertainment system was not wired into that system, so power continued flowing to it.
Cut off everything except the slot machines.
Yeah, not the gambling must continue.
Why don't they build the whole plane out of the slot machines?
So you're seeing the lights go off, the emergency lights come on, and you're still able to watch LA Confidential. It hasn't even paused.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a concern.
Well, another thing that the bus cut off, however, were the recirculating fans in the upper cabin ceiling, which kept the air supply to the cabin is effectively isolated from the other parts of the aircraft wiring systems. As of course the at this point unknown fire was at the very forward cabin, which you can see a progression map of it at the bottom left there, which is rather low res, but hopefully you'll get the picture. This effectively gave it a grand total of one place to go, which is forward and directly into the cockpit ceiling.
Oh, good.
Not ideal.
Yes.
I would say that probably is not good.
At 10:24, so what are we here? We are basically at like less than a minute after they turned off the electricity to the cabin. While still en route to dump fuel, Swissair crew told the Halifax controller, quote, "At this time, we must fly manually," indicating that autopilot systems had already been damaged enough that they disconnected, and they had to control the airplane entirely by hand. 17 seconds later, they finally choose to declare an emergency. And about 20 seconds after that, they declare an emergency for the second time. Not really sure why they did it twice, but to be fair, I guess that's better than not doing it at all, which was what they had done previously.
Just really to underline, per my previous scream for help.
This was the last radio transmission that received from the aircraft directly. 35 seconds later, 10:25 and 40 seconds, the aircraft's flight data recorder stops recording, because of course the fire was now destroying that part of things. 1 second after that, the cockpit voice recorder also stops recording, and therefore everything that happens after this is some flavor of conjecture, because there's literally nothing to go off of except for various forensic conclusions, which are difficult.
About that. That's
this has gone poorly.
Yes. 24 seconds later, at 10:26:04, the transponder stops transmitting entirely, meaning that nobody can see any data from the aircraft with the exception of the primary radar at Halifax, which can see it because it's radar and not because it's transmitting anything. Notably, they can't see the aircraft's speed or the aircraft's altitude at this point. Somewhere in the next 3 minutes, the fire has gotten bad enough that it is now visible in the cockpit, and presumably the forward cabin. We don't know that for sure.
Nightmare.
Yes. Captain Zimmerman gets up out of his seat to fight the fire himself. The details of what happened here are pretty impossible to determine, but considering they found what they did of him nowhere near his seat, that seems like a relatively safe bet. They also found them pretty close, and I believe the term used at one point was fused to some of Swissair's MD-11 flight manuals. The basic conclusion I think forensic scientists have come to is that Zimmerman got up to fight the fire, and he used the manual to do so.
I mean, as a kind of like video game logic, use manual on problem. It's more literal, but like, maybe this is a naive question, and not that it would have done anything, which is probably why there isn't. But you'd think there would be like a fire extinguisher in the cockpit, right? Like,
I think my understanding is that there is, but I'm guessing it was on the part of the cockpit that was currently on fire.
And it's
that is a problem.
You gotta extinguish the fire on the fire extinguisher in order to use the fire extinguisher to extinguish the rest of the fire.
Yeah, most aircraft have a sort of a little handheld extinguisher. I believe it's close to the door.
Yeah.
I don't really know. It's obviously it varies from aircraft to aircraft. I think some of the newer ones will mount it under the seat, which is a smarter place for it to be. But either way, obviously this doesn't really work.
He's going out to just sort of bat it with some paper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a valiant effort, but insufficient.
Yeah.
Based on what investigators have been able to piece together, because that's what we're operating on at this point, Captain was likely either incapacitated or already dead whenever the aircraft crashed. Even the first officer is the sole living person in the cockpit to control the plane at this point.
Your plane is burning down around you, and your boss has also just been burned to death immediately behind you.
What a terrible day at the office.
Probably continuing to burn to death. Again, he's
already dead,
quickly.
Roz. Maybe, I don't know. We close the bleakness in our own ways here.
Somewhere around 10:30, which
attempting to stop, drop, and roll, but there's not a lot of space in there.
That's true. Yeah. Somewhere around 10:30, so about a minute, or somewhere between a minute and 2 minutes after the captain gets up to fight the fire and then immediately dies, First Officer Lowe shuts down the second engine, which is the one in the tail. This almost certainly has no effect on the aircraft's flyability, and there's obviously no way for us to know why he did that.
Just
wouldn't really have done anything.
Just hitting buttons at this point. Yeah.
At this point in time, for the last 1 minute and 18 seconds of flight, we have no idea what really happened. So all there is a couple of different theories. Most of them revolve around the fact that the first officer was flying the plane by himself at night with no instruments, with a cockpit full of smoke and fire, and a large oxygen mask in front of him. And therefore, while it was possibly still somewhat controllable to an extent we don't know and we're never going to know, it's not really reasonable for any sort of normal human to control it under that many different circumstances going on at one point in time. Right?
Is the MD-11 does it still have direct cables from the controls to the control services? Or is
this was the fly-by-wire era. The MD-11 was designed in the late 80s. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
But all we can say is this is McDonnell Douglas living up to the slogan once again.
Yeah.
Yes.
That slogan again, folks, will kill you.
Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head, but in any case, it does. In any case, if that were the case, then it wouldn't have mattered because, of course, flight control cables would have been very burned through. But in any situation, it didn't really matter because even if the first officer was not struggling to see or incapacitated, he had all that to deal with. If the controls didn't work or if he shut the engine down, doesn't really matter one way or another. We're moving towards sort of the same general end point here.
Yes.
At 10:31 and 18 seconds, so exactly 17 minutes in total, after the crew first transmitted a pan call and asked to fly 300 miles to Boston, the aircraft hit the ocean nose down at a speed of about 345 miles per hour.
Ooh.
Exerting a force of 350 Gs across the aircraft and its contents, meaning it has turned to dust, killing all 229 people on board, not including people that had already died before impact, which was probably at least one, but given that the fire was also above the cabin, it could have been more than that. We don't really know.
You always hope to, that everybody gets like peacefully-ish incapacitated by smoke inhalation rather than being terrified and burning to death and then plunging directly into the ocean.
Yeah,
of course. But notably, of course, even if they had done that, they still would have seen the smoke and fire. So peacefully is still probably not quite
peacefully-ish, relatively.
You always joke about, you have the button on your seat rest that makes the engine fall off or that makes the plane crash.
Yeah.
And on this flight, someone did that. It happened.
Yeah.
So that is the end of this aircraft. 229 people are now dead. They're somewhere in the water near Halifax.
Crashed directly into the Titanic.
The only reason we know when it crashed was because it set off a seismometer nearby.
Jesus.
Wow. Oh, God.
Yeah. Because, at this point, all they had really was the primary radar that didn't really show any details. So if the entire plane had disappeared from the radar, I assume they would have assumed it crashed, but they wouldn't have had any way of knowing if it was just more things failing. In any case, that's the end of this plane, and the end of these two guys, and the end of a bunch of other people as well, and the end of whoever won their $3,500.
Now it's a water log too, on top of everything else.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And he was 1 day away from his birthday as well.
Yes, from turning 50 specifically.
Wow.
So, feel a little bad for him, particularly because he, notably did not die in the crash directly. He died before that. Puts him in sort of a really strange position.
Yeah.
Well, I understand 50 is when you start getting reactionary politics, right? So I don't know. The age keeps increasing every year, though, so I don't know.
Next slide. I think now that we're done talking about the active flight, here is what that same plane from 2 slides ago looks like at this point in time.
It's always crazy to me how well all the structural bits are able to hold up to the stuff that liquefies every person in board.
Yeah, metal's a very strong material.
Shout out to metal.
Yes.
Big fan of metal.
Yes.
Yeah, metal's pretty good.
Yeah. Hence the problem with the wood planes we talked about quite a bit earlier. That was we figured that out pretty early on, but it still took about 20 years of commercial flight for us to get that far.
If they had a piano on this plane, though.
It's a structural piano, of course.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they had 2 Picasso paintings on board it, which obviously did not survive this.
Oh,
so
God.
there was some form of art, just not piano, some form of culture, I should say. The search and rescue operation, which the Royal Canadian Armed Forces called Operation Persistence.
Just kind of pick something that sounds vaguely positive, Operation Midnight Hammer.
Look, we're gonna find someone alive. No, never mind.
Yes. My
I think
understanding is
you call it Operation Persistence if you're expecting not to find very much for a long time,
because you're persistent. Yeah.
Well, seeing as there was no way for anybody to know it crashed on the official side, because of course they had no idea what was going on with the radar. All they had, notably, was a couple of guys local who called 911. I believe is
calling into the Moncton police to be like, hey, I think I just saw a bunch of Swiss guys get turned into soup.
Yeah, I mean, that's roughly what happened for them to realize that they had lost it, I believe. The seismometer thing I mentioned, but they didn't realize that till later. It's just how we know what time it was. Pretty much immediately once they got there, they would find a field of wreckage and would start to call off most of the rescue part of the search and rescue operations about 3 hours after it started, or about 3:30 a.m. Atlantic time. Once the operation switched to salvage, it was mostly guided by underwater sonar and diving operations, initially mostly using American Navy ships and sailors from the USS Grapple, based out of Philadelphia.
Weird name.
We're number one.
They would find the flight data recorder on September 6th and the cockpit voice recorder on September 11th. 1998, to be clear.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Oh, this is cool. The fucking NTSB Kintsugi frame.
Yeah.
Well, this is the Canadian one.
Do they have multiple of these, or do they just have one that they keep reusing?
Kind of shovel around.
You've got to have a different one for each aircraft, surely. Or each aircraft shape.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true.
The one for TWA 800 they had in a hangar until like last year, I think.
Wow.
Actually, when was that? Because I remember there being a big deal about it because people make a big deal out of the one plane crash. Yeah, can't find it quickly enough. In any case,
something disturbing about the velvet rope in front of it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, notably, that's a CTV reporter. He's got the CTV hat on, standing in front of there, so they probably didn't want them getting too close to the horribly mangled pieces of metal.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
As authorities recovered more of the aircraft, they gradually reconstructed just the forward section of the aircraft from the cockpit back to just the first class cabin. This is the entirety of what they managed to recover and successfully piece together.
Wow.
You'll notice it's not super complete. They did retrieve, 98% of aircraft debris by December 1999. So notably in the intervening year I had been born, which is cool. Investigators in the press would find a specific concern to focus on by the first week of October 1998, less than a month into the investigation. Next slide.
Oh, okay, we're going to do some real crash detective shit here. Okay. Yes. Ideal.
The TSB, the Transportation Safety Board, that's the Canadian one, I remember now, find one very peculiar part of the aircraft's wiring harnesses, that being multiple segments of wire that had damaged insulation. All of these segments of wire were components leading to the power supply of the in-flight entertainment system. Several segments of wire here had become so damaged that the copper was fully exposed, obviously before it had been crushed for 350 G. Anyway, in fact, it had gotten hot enough that the copper core had actually started to melt, which you can, in fact, see the picture of here.
This is very melted looking.
It's not good.
Wild to be able to pull these cables out of the ocean and identify them by function as well.
Yeah, I mean that's what these investigatory boards are made to do. But I guess I never really thought about that. That's pretty fucked up.
That's their job. They have this, and then as long as they don't accidentally pick up a piece of the transatlantic cable, which presumably could have happened here, and then you completely cut off America and Europe, leading to World War III.
Of course,
The generally accepted explanation for this that the TSB would come up with, which was not verifiable for obviously a number of reasons regarding the fact that the plane had exploded, basically, was that the in-flight entertainment network system drew so much power that the wires, which were too thin for that level of power draw, would actually have the insulation melt off of it in certain places, leaving the bare metal entirely exposed. The electrified copper core of the wires then came in contact with the mylar blankets that were insulating the entire system beneath it. Of course, this was an essential part of the aircraft's insulation system entirely, but the fact that you had electrified wire touching it is not great, and it means that it tends to arc.
Bad.
Yeah. Well, everything's petrochemicals.
Yep.
And some of it's less flammable than others, but
turns out it's all dead trees, even when it's not wood.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, mylar
everything's made of wood.
Yeah.
That's a good point there, yeah. Mylar is a material with a high enough ignition point that it's generally considered somewhat fireproof to an extent. But the conclusion that the TSB came to was that the arc happened enough times and was hot enough that it probably damaged the mylar, either ignited it or the blanket that it was, or the insulation blanket that it was covering, which is of course much more flammable.
Oh, you set fire to your fireproofing. You don't want to do that. That's the opposite of what it's supposed to do.
That's not good. Why didn't they use asbestos?
That's a great point.
They should have. Listen, I know a lot of people have some problems with the Trump administration saying asbestos is okay in certain applications now. But
I can't argue with that.
It's not made of wood. It's one of the few things we have that's not made of wood.
It's made of rocks. It's made of rocks.
It's rocks. Yeah.
Could build the whole airplane out of rocks.
If we made the whole airplane out of asbestos, you imagine it has like you walk in the
You
airplane
do
and
get
like the
turbo
floor is
mesothelioma, though.
no, the floor is like the 9x9 tile that your grandma's kitchen has.
Nice.
So basically, what of course happens whenever you have an arcing wire that is hot enough to melt a mylar covering is that of course you get a fire that sparks and burns very, very, very hot.
Oh, good.
Ah,
So in a part of the aircraft that is filled with active electrical wiring of many gauges and many thermal insulation material, this would also mean a fire that would spread extremely fast. Particularly given that whether or not it was fueled by active electrical current, which of course would have increased the heat. At a point, it doesn't really matter too much. Fire is its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it does. But one thing that you can do to keep it from spreading to particularly sensitive systems above the cockpit is to not turn off the recirculating fans that cut off airflow from that part of the aircraft to the cockpit.
Which is an essential step on the checklist.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
The MD-11 in particular was designed to use a circuit breaker system that it would not trip whenever it detected arcing, and it would trip based on a calculation of time and current correlation that I don't really understand. But it meant that the aircraft would think that everything was perfectly fine and nothing out of the ordinary was going on throughout any of this, because it was presumably, as far as we can tell, arcing for quite a lot longer than just the one flight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you could have flown on this exact plane and had this be like arcing against the fireproofing the whole time, and
Yes.
it's just you just get unlucky that it happens like 6 minutes into this one.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's about the flight from Geneva the previous day. I imagine this was
Going
went
back in my
fine.
head about when I took flights where.
The next slide. That's all I have for that one. The diagrams there are interesting demonstration of wire, but really the part with the melted copper was sort of the most important thing there, because that doesn't really happen unless things get much hotter than anybody would ever reasonably consider.
ideally, you don't have metal melting on the plane.
No, that's
yeah.
bad.
Yes. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada would release the preliminary report on the crash of Swissair Flight 111 on August 30th, 2000. The report concluded everything we discussed on the last slide, but that the primary fault for the accident lied with the mylar material being considered too flammable, albeit still within standard. The quote that I put here is, aircraft certification standards for material flammability were inadequate in that they allowed the use of materials that could be ignited and sustain or propagate fire. Consequently, flammable material propagated a fire that started above the ceiling on the right side of the cockpit. The fire spread and intensified rapidly to the extent that it degraded aircraft systems and etc., etc. To some extent, this is a football kick. More so, rather kicking the football. My phrasing was a bit weird there. It was really the only conclusion they could come to beyond any reasonable doubt, because they could not really conclude, given the forensic evidence that they had, i.e. the remains of the aircraft. They couldn't really conclude if it was directly the fault of the in-flight entertainment system. But the main source of the damage was the wiring going to the in-flight entertainment system that everybody had previously complained ran too hot.
Good enough.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones where they got off on a technicality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it could have been something else. It was probably this. Could have been something else.
Yes. And also another conclusion was that another conclusion the TSB reached was that the crew didn't have any way of knowing how severe the fire was whenever they shut down the fans, so they couldn't really be blamed for doing that, even though it was what killed the aircraft as far as we know.
It was on the checklist. You're supposed to follow the checklist.
I
get
so
that.
follow the checklist. That's like the pilots seem to have done everything that could be reasonably expected.
This was including trying to fight a fire with a 3-ring binder.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the crew very much worked by the book here, except the problem was the book itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, literally.
The release of the preliminary report led to a coalition of involved parties, namely Swissair, Delta Airlines, who had code-shared Swissair on the flight and were also an American company, so it's easier to get damages out of them, and Boeing. who had bought McDonnell Douglas to offer families of the victims an undisclosed settlement.
You are Boeing to receive an undisclosed settlement.
Actually, you're not. They
you are not Boeing to receive an undisclosed settlement.
The families involved voted to reject taking that settlement entirely.
Good for them.
Instead, opting to sue all of those companies, and also DuPont, who made the Mylar, and Interactive Flight Technology. Remember the name from earlier. Back now. Totaling $19.8 billion in sought damages. The U.S. judge would rule against punitive damages in 2002, but various dealings meant that they still received some compensation. The numbers aren't really clear there. It doesn't really matter too much. It's just a good way to bring IFT back into the picture. Because in the real world, the press immediately started asking questions about what the wiring was hooked up to, which was, of course, the in-flight entertainment system.
There we go.
Which Swissair had advertised very heavily in town.
Yes.
Yes, and presumably they lost huge amounts of money on.
Yes.
Because they lost $3,300 each time.
That's true. Yes. Swissair would go out of their way to turn it off on all aircraft by October 29th, 1998, and promised that they would remove it as soon as the maintenance schedule allowed for it. And, of course, everybody else who had contracted IFT immediately canceled any and all contracts they had with them for, reasonable.
Guy working for Alitalia, just going through and with his bare hands ripping terminals out of the seat backs.
It was later reported by USA Today, actually, that the IFEN2 system had been certified by a subcontractor named Santa Barbara Aerospace, who the FAA determined had not properly audited or tested the system, and that their approval of it was technically invalid to begin with.
Oh, good.
One quoted certification engineer, whose name is here, the last name that I can't really pronounce, but his first name is Edward.
Edward
Milinarczyk?
Milinarczyk. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's what they come to the podcast for. Hell yeah.
We're all here, and between us, we can all pronounce one Polish last name.
Ross, shouldn't you be able to do this?
No.
Okay. I mean, my wife's Polish and doesn't know how to pronounce her own last name, so I understand. He's also said to USA Today that IFT had come to him with the request that he certify the original system in 1994 as quickly as possible because they were rapidly running out of operating capital.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. Just we need you to say this is safe because we are running out of money.
Notably, he did not sign off on this. Huh. Which presumably this is for good reason. I mean, the first system wasn't what failed, but to be fair, they only installed it on one plane and then took it out immediately afterwards. So,
just immediately catches fire.
Yeah,
it's like Homer Simpson's bowl of cereal.
So, by any reasonable conclusion, by any reasonable assertion, I don't know where I pulled that word from, or any reasonable assertion, IFT was the primary party at fault here, as did everybody else who was not bound by legal investigatory restrictions. So this isn't very good for them.
This is I would not like to be in this situation if I were IFT.
Now what? Now I would like to. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to do a sort of where are they now here with these dead.
Oh god,
everyone's
damn
dead.
it! This break my fucking heart. Why don't you?
Yes. By March 2001, Swissair was losing 1 million francs per day and was nearing bankruptcy.
Listen, is it a bad business decision to kill a bunch of your own passengers? And is it a bad business decision to be heavily over-leveraged and everything? And is it a bad business decision to allegedly maybe have a bunch of embezzlement? Yes.
No,
right.
I've spent a Swiss franc. I've spent a Swiss franc before, and it's not very much money compared to $1.
That's also true. That's also true. But is that a good enough reason to take away a beautiful whole corporate language from the world and replace it with something that looks like a budget hotel chain?
Could I sustain losing 1 million Swiss francs per day? No. But an airline, that should be fine.
Basically, what an airline does change, right? Is sustain vast amounts of financial losses. Anyway, I miss this stuff. I still have a little shoulder bag cabin luggage thing with the old Swissair brand on it, and I'm going to keep it for as long as I possibly can until it falls apart.
They should have switched. They should have switched currency to something that was even cheaper, like I don't know, Turkish lira or something.
Yeah, if you measure it in zloty, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Yeah, rubles. What do they have in India?
Rupees.
Yeah.
Rupees. But then you have to do like crores and lakhs. That's like more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the various financial difficulties of Swissair here. Some
the
of them,
main
there was a lot of
tragedy
them,
here, to be clear.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them that were sort of rooted in stuff that happened before this crash, but it didn't really do them any favors. For a couple of reasons. Number one is that, of course, crashing a plane tends to cost money.
Yeah,
but also, of course,
no repeat customers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, of course, people don't really want to fly on you that much, particularly if it looks, even if it looks at first like it might have been your crew's fault or whatever, or your airline's fault, and even if it wasn't. And like, to be clear, it was kind of their fault here, so not really great for business.
Pretty certain I was still getting packed onto and off of these things. So like,
well, I mean that's reasonably. I mean they operated for like 3 years after 4 years after that accident happened. So it's clearly not. It was a more terminal decline that was probably already going to happen at the time, but didn't really help them.
So you presumably in smaller planes that didn't have the entertainment system.
That's also
it's true.
They only had it in the MD-11s and like some of the 747s, and they took it out of all of them anyways. Now, of course, Swissair was losing 1 million francs per day in March 2001. The travel market would get much worse in September 2001 for reasons.
Oh, Roz. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No, I didn't do that. That was some foreigners.
Roz.
And one 10-year-old, apparently, if you believe Andrew Cuomo.
On October 5th, Swissair effectively collapsed. Swiss government would promise a loan to keep operations running in the short term, which they later increased to cover the entire winter operating season. At which point all aircraft and operations would be transported to Swiss regional airline Crossair, which was renamed Swiss International Airlines. This last Swissair flight flew on April 1st, 2002.
April Fools.
Swiss International Airlines is still the flag carrier of Switzerland.
Yeah, they try and fucking trick you by being just like Swiss, not the same. Fuck you.
Well, my understanding is they wanted to keep the Swissair brand, but there was a bizarre sort of copyright and legal restriction from them doing so.
Yeah, I think like the federal government owned it or something. I don't remember how it works out, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very. I mean, there's obviously a sort of brand image consideration there, but also there was the legal side of it was very strange and confusing. In any case, they would retire the MD-11s by 2005 because, of course, they weren't great airplanes. We talked about this last time I was on the podcast. Interactive flight technologies, under the weight of scrutiny from the global press and investigatory authorities alike, would simply bail from the situation and declare bankruptcy in 1999. Yeah. The CEO of the company, Mikhail Itkis, the son of the first CEO we talked about way earlier, would go on to change his name to Mike Snow in 2004, start a new company.
Like the DJ?
Yeah, like the guy who made the songs. Yeah.
Yeah, I get a little bit Genghis Khan.
Don't want you to get it on with anyone but me. Yeah.
Banger. I mean, fantastic
it's
video.
A very good one. Yes.
Yeah.
That is a music video about killing James Bond.
That is true.
Oh shit, that's a good point there.
Yeah.
In 2004, he would start a new company called Interstate Cargo, which manufactured cargo trailers, established in association with, at the time, the current governor of Arkansas. If you click the next slide.
Oh.
That would be Mike Huckabee.
Mike Huckabee, the funny Republican. Yeah, I remember that.
The guy who looks like a sort of like slightly melted Kevin Spacey. Yeah.
Yes.
The guy who accidentally tipped the hand about like Operation Midnight Hammer by tweeting a kind of prayers up tweet 40 minutes early.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
I
mean, but one of them was bound to do it.
This is true. Yes.
Yeah.
Current U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee.
Oh, I forgot it. Yeah, I keep forgetting about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing about the Trump administration part 2 is the biggest piece of shit you've ever heard of is just like in a federal government job, and you don't know about this, and you'll find out about it, and you'll take some psychic damage, and you'll be like,
it's not enough. I need Chris Christie to be appointed to something.
Where can Trump exile him to?
Where
governor, like a fucking ambassador to like the South Sandwich Islands or something.
Yeah, no, he's ambassador to the island that's only like penguins, and he's enforcing the tariffs.
The trailer company, Interstate Cargo, does still exist. Mike Snow is still CEO of it, as LinkedIn doesn't list any employers prior to the year 2000, which is interesting.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, I would like to and I would like to actually close this by pointing out that he still has a Twitter account. If you'll go to the next slide, I've included some of the people that he follows on that.
Incredible. Okay, great.
So this is, of course, the CEO of a trailer manufacturer who previously built an in-flight entertainment system that killed 229 people.
And he loves the Babylon Bee.
He does.
Yeah. And Cat's Herd.
Dogecoin. I like the logical kind of progression of thought there. J.D. Vance, and of course Scott Adams, who is responsible for a similarly heinous crime in the form of the comic strip Dilbert.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point there.
Jesus Christ. The modern Republican Party really is just a drain for all of these guys to fucking like sink into, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like, hey, come hang out with the Republican Party. We got Cat Turd. We got the guy who killed a bunch of Swiss people.
Maybe that's why Chris Christie hasn't been taken into the machine, because he has too much integrity. And I know for a fact that one time he took a phone call in a quiet car on Amtrak, but then realized his mistake and left.
We call
which is something Joe
growth.
Biden didn't do.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, this is a relatively high bar.
Yeah.
So that was the end of this story. I just wanted to include this last slide as a nice demonstration of
a better life awaits you as a right-wing chud. You can get away with anything.
I was about to say, maybe we should pivot to being right-wing. I don't know.
I think some of us would find it harder than others.
No, it would be very difficult. It'd be very difficult.
You say that. I don't know. I could run the detrans grift where you just go like, I'm detransitioning because of I was tricked into it by doctors who forced me into it, and then you just don't detransition.
What if you do a false backstory and you say you're detransitioning into a woman?
That's interesting. I could buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, maybe
I was a
that would be a way to
vulnerable
go.
little girl who was forced onto testosterone through the sick machinations of the National Health Service, and now I'm rediscovering.
I was about to say
my real identity.
To me.
Yeah. Incredible.
Anyways, that's the time a guy pressed the wings fall off button and killed 230 people.
Someone did it. Someone pressed the wings fall off button.
I guess in this case, it's more like he caused the wings fall off button to be there for someone else to press inadvertently.
Yeah.
I mean, I was using the general we, not the guy pictured here, but like also the guy pictured here designed the button more than anything else.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, this has been a harrowing one. Like it's been a minute since we had one that gave me the real fear.
Yeah, because I whenever I accidentally mentioned it last time, it was you noted how horrifying the concept of the in-flight entertainment system that kills you was.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is a good one, because this is purely engineering. This is electrical and structural engineering and fire engineering, which is, I don't know if that's a thing.
And it is, and in service of the gambling industry, which is one of the worst things on earth. So great, fantastic.
I mean, what did we learn? Folks, don't gamble. Gambling's bad.
Yeah.
Don't watch the movie on the plane.
I know this is telling this to capitalists, and all hitherto existing history is a process of class struggle, right? And it's a sort of historical inevitability that it ends up this way. But please be more careful with your flag carrier intellectual property rights. Like,
Yes.
please don't kill a bunch of people, not least because you'll kill a bunch of people, which is bad, but also because the result will be a less compellingly branded airline.
Yes.
Swiss International does own the Swissair brand these days. They just don't do anything with it.
What the fuck? Okay, this it's interesting because I normally end a really harrowing episode on a downer, but this is one where I'm ending angry.
Sorry.
I will say, it does seem like this problem occurred, but we seem to have largely solved it because there've been very few airline accidents until quite recently when they got the guy from MTV's Road Rules to run the Department of Transportation.
Oh, fuck, we completely forgot to put in the Air India crash because we got overtaken by events. It's fine.
Oh, right.
We'll talk about it next time when we know more about it. I'm reading here from the Wikipedia page. To prevent the trademark from becoming void through disuse, Swiss licensed it to Hopscotch Air, which operates a fleet of Cirrus SR-22 planes in the US, which are just little Cessna-type things. Yes. In Switzerland, the trademark is protected through its use by an aviation sports club. Undignified.
Huh.
Nah, they got to just put it on a big plane.
Infuriating.
Yeah. They haven't even, I don't even think they've done the retrojet thing that most of the airlines have. I might be wrong about that.
No.
That'd be a smart thing to do. Yeah. I mean, people like seeing Swissair. Anyway.
Yes.
So we have a segment on this podcast called Safety Third.
Shake hands with danger.
So, hello, Justin, Liam, November, et al.
Sure.
That's probably the most reasonable one that I've heard so far, I think.
I'm writing to you with tales of poisoning at the botanical garden.
Thank you for the perfect opening sentence of a Safety Third. Oh, real quick, before we get into it, if they want to send in Safety Thirds, where do they send them?
Where do you send Safety Thirds? You send them to our email, which is somewhere on the YouTube page. I don't believe we're allowed to put it.
WTYPpod@gmail.com, I'm pretty certain.
Yes, that should be about a page long, and send us some pictures if you want.
Yeah.
And I think you can submit them on the site, but it doesn't work very well. We have a website also.
Anything you say, we will read on the air.
Yes. Well, maybe. Yes. We get like more than one a week, and we only podcast once a week, theoretically.
Yeah.
And in practice, less than that.
I'm working on it. All right.
Look, we're all working on it. We all have. Anyway, Safety Third.
I would like to clarify real quick that is a poisoning ! At the botanical garden.
Yes,
of course.
Much like Panic at the Disco. Yes.
Just wanted to make sure that was conveyed because I feel it's important.
Yes. I am a horticulturist, which is a glorified gardener at an unnamed public botanic garden. I have been working this job for nearly 3 years against my better judgment. The following events unfolded 2 years ago when I was still a fresh new gardener who believed in the inherent goodness of people and nonprofit organizations.
That's such a bad idea.
Yeah.
At this unnamed garden, us horticulturalists operate out of an office/greenhouse building. While we spend the majority of our days toiling away outside in the Georgia heat, we return regularly to our home base office for water refills, Gatorade chugging, and hand washing. The horticulture office draws its water from a well on the property, unlike the public visitor center and administrative offices, which use city water. One early spring day, the white porcelain sink in our horticulture office turned blue.
Not thrilled.
Being idiots and assuming the greenhouse guys were just washing chemicals down the drain, or something else which was normal, none of us worried too much. The sink remained dyed blue for the better part of 3 months.
Not great.
That is until one day when the greenhouse assistant saw me refilling my water bottle from the kitchen sink and said, "You guys aren't drinking that water, right?"
Oh God. Oh God. Okay.
It turns out the horticulture manager had sent the well water off for testing weeks before, after the sink first turned blue. The results showed 7 times the EPA limit of copper and noticeably high levels of nitrates.
Delicious fertilizer.
Yeah, and that's good, delicious. That's good for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Copper? I'm not sure.
It's what plants crave or something.
Yeah, I know. Copper, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Further, that's why Gatorade is blue. It's because it's what.
Because of the
Well, that's a
color,
good point
yeah.
there, yeah.
And the
Yeah, that's what
nitrates.
plants crave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Further investigation revealed that years ago, in an attempt to simplify the irrigation lines running from the well to the greenhouse, the manager had inadvertently removed the backflow preventer. This crucial piece of plumbing kept the tank of concentrated plant fertilizer from backwashing into the well, the same well that us gardeners had been drinking out of for our entire respective tenures.
Oh God.
Not great.
When the horticulture manager had figured this out weeks before, he had neglected to tell anyone but his greenhouse assistant. Myself and 3 other gardeners continued to drink the water for weeks after the contamination was discovered. By our best guess, the semi-constant influx of nitrogen-based fertilizer, or the blue, began to corrode our copper water lines, which were also bluish, and these combined factors caused the distinctive blue staining in our sink. Horrifyingly, when we hammered open the filter in the Britter Pitcha we recently adopted, it was also stained neon blue. I could write pages about HR's inhuman response to our collective poisoning, the fiasco that was our blood testing and subsequent medical bills, and the administration's ultimate refusal to do anything to remedy the contaminated well. But I shan't. Too long, don't read. Gardeners still drink out of bottled water coolers to this day.
I am having the thing that we last got with the sort of cat litter one, where I'm like, I think if you haven't already, you need to speak to a lawyer about this.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is the
that
company
time you
should
got
be able
poisoned?
to the company should be able to give you water.
Yeah.
Even the government lets you drink water. Come on.
You should do something about this. And I'm not I don't know if I can say what, but you should do something about this.
Yes. My senior coworker quit over the contaminated water, which she had been unknowingly drinking for 5 years before discovery. She got pregnant nearly a year after quitting and had to be induced early due to the liver damage caused by her poisoning.
Jesus Christ.
It's a comedy podcast, folks.
It's a comedy podcast about engineering disasters. Very funny things occur.
Yeah, but I mean, I had someone ask me about what I did for a living the other day, and I had to explain. And I said it's a true crime podcast, but the crime is social murder.
Yes,
and
yeah,
I stick by that one. And Jesus, it's not always a fun time, is it?
Yeah, nah, it's not good. Not good. I mean, even something that's like, it seems kind of, how do you say, trivial. It's like, no, don't drink the blue water.
Yeah, this is thoroughly reinforcing my whole contamination anxiety thing. I look forward to washing out every glass I drink from about 5 or 6 dozen times.
Yeah. Well, what water are you using to do that?
Oh, I mean, I'm also worrying about that separately, so don't worry.
Exactly.
I'm worrying about the worrying as well.
Yeah, you gotta get good city water through good lead pipes, no copper pipes. Got to be lead.
See, I was gonna make a quip about using bottled water, but notably the UK is where Coca-Cola tried to sell bottled water, and it also came out poisoned.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know. I listen. Glasgow tap water is very, very good. Comes straight down from a lock. Tastes fantastic. Big fan. So yeah,
I know my water is good because it comes out of the Schuylkill and it goes through a nuclear reactor on the way here.
Oh fuck
yeah! No contaminants, just pure, unfiltered radiation, which is fine.
Genuinely, though, yeah.
Anyway, cheers and fuck the A asterisk B asterisk G asterisk dash.
Hold on, let me tab back over to the thing so I can read this. What?
Yeah, no, I'm not certain what this is.
I presume it's the name of the garden based on the.
Oh, that tracks.
That could be the case. Yeah.
The B and the G, I would assume, is botanical garden.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. From Kelsey, they them.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Please take these people to the cleaners.
Oh yeah,
like that's not good. It's no good.
Well,
yeah,
troubling.
Anyway, our next episode will be. Oh, that was safety third. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Do the thing again.
Shake hands with danger.
Hands with danger.
Our next episode will be on Chernobyl. Does anyone have any commercials before we go?
Maya.
Yeah, let me do my usual self-promotion. For the most part, you could find most of the things that I do at my website, which is mayawalkwith.me. I am currently in the middle. Currently in the middle. I hope you liked I did the poster just for the header. I don't know if you've ever looked at it, but I went through a lot of effort for that. I'm currently actually doing a run of photography prints using equipment that I bought from the large pharmacy chain that's going out of business here in the United States. This is purely a novelty thing, but people seem to like my photography, except these aren't selling particularly well, so I'm going to plug them here. They're only a limited set of 10 per each one, so this is not a big deal. It was like half for a joke anyway, but one way or another. That can also be found on my website. It can also be, you just have to put shop in front of the URL. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky, both of which are some variation of Maya Walk With Me. Those are kind of the important ones. My Substack is linked in all of those. That's the important one. My podcast is actually only on Twitter because, like I said, I haven't dealt with it in a year, so I need to get back to that. It will probably be on Blue Sky by the time you people hear this. I don't actually know. I'm trying to think what else I have. I don't know. I'm poor. Give me money. That's all I can really advise.
There you go. That's the important part.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
This is the core part of it all.
Put your money in other places.
That's true.
All right. I don't have anything to plug. I don't know what happened to Liam.
Did I mute myself again? God damn it.
You might have.
Oh, yeah, you haven't said anything for like the past 20 minutes to half an hour.
Yeah, I was muted. That's my bad.
Okay. Shit. Well.
It's okay. That's okay, folks. I went to the bathroom and came back. And then yeah, it's fine. All right. Well.
Sorry, we were talking over you.
No,
we didn't hear
quite
you.
Okay. I'm sure someone will leave a hurtful comment about how they liked it better.
Wow. Well,
fine.
We have closure now, at least.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, everyone. That was a podcast.
Night.